Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Okay.
Keith, excuse me, but if they're on call-in back there, how do I get them to approve?
We're going to
the
act
agenda?
as if they have not yet joined the meeting, so passes.
Okay,
Motion passes 3-0.
thank you.
Okay. So is there no public comment? Then we will go to closed session. You actually sound awful.
I know. I don't know why.
Have you got a cold?
Mike is here.
Would you read us? Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Do we have two other council members on the phone right now? Mike, are you there?
I am here.
Wallace, are you on? Well, we have a quorum. We have a quorum, so we'll start as Wallace gets in. Let us know. Okay, all right. So we're calling the meeting back to order. Would you please stand for the pledge?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Follow me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing.
Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for the blessings that you have given this city in light of the recent earthquake and everything that we have gone through. The lack of injuries and the safety that was given to everybody is not gone unnoticed. I feel we were blessed and we were lucky to survive and come out of it the way we did. We thank you in the name of our Father, amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Okay, the city attorney's report.
Yeah, I want to do something unusual, though. First, I'd like to echo the sentiments of the invocation. I was very pleased coming up here to see how well you guys did. Let me turn now to the official business. The City Council met in closed session to discuss the item identified as pending litigation, which is the arbitration case with the Shoshone tribe. The City Council made a decision to retain counsel, and that will be that agreement will come forward before the City Council at a subsequent meeting. But the understanding is that attorney is to proceed immediately based on the direction of council. The City Council also met to discuss anticipated litigation, or was intending to, but has not actually had that discussion yet. And as a result, that item will be carried over to the end of the meeting. Madam Mayor, that concludes the report.
Okay, thank you. Presentations, if you all will join us at the council. At the podium, thank you.
Good evening. Tonight we're here to honor Fred Booth, who is retiring very shortly. I think he's got one more week we get to use him for. So a little bit about Fred. Fred is a Navy veteran, which warms my heart. Thank you, Fred, being a Navy veteran myself. So Fred started with us on April 28th in 2014. After serving 29 years with the Naval Criminal Investigative Services after he traveled all over the world. I think he spent a large portion of time in, I think, Hawaii. So, yeah, bad duty. So, Fred was our code enforcement officer for the last 5 years, and he did a great job. Fred had to develop or enhance many of the policies, programs, forms with our code enforcement, so as well as develop new ordinances and then as well as enforce those laws. So many times Fred wasn't the most popular guy, but he took that and he did that job with pride because he cares about this community. He's going to continue to live here. His grandkids are being raised here and his family lives here. So Fred is going to be here and continue his life here. So we'll be seeing him around. So Fred, we're going to miss you, but we'll still see you around, and don't be a stranger and join PACT. So that way we get to use you for free. Thanks, Fred.
Well, as the chief mentioned, I was with NCIS 29 total years. 18 of those were here in Ridgecrest, not Hawaii.
When you talked, it was all Hawaii.
Oh, I loved it. During my time with NCIS, I was either transferred or temporarily assigned to numerous offices in the United States, Europe, and the Middle East, to include 3 or 4 war zones. But my most enjoyable position, however, despite Mike Neal's valiant attempts to thwart all my efforts, was as code enforcement officer. And I owe all that to the men and women of the Ridgecrest Police Department. I want to thank you for your support. I couldn't have done this job without you, and I wouldn't have wanted to. Thank you.
Can we get one with all the officers up here too? Do you all mind? These are the guys.
Ricka,
Yes, Wallace?
is this the call-in for the main open section?
Yes, you're live right now. We're on the presentation for Fred Booth.
All right, thank you.
This is friendly. Thank you all. Okay, now we are ready for the Public Works update.
Madam Mayor, before we do that, I'd like to correct a statement I made earlier. I indicated earlier in my closed session report that we would bring the outside counsel's contract before the City Council at a subsequent meeting. After thinking about it, I realized that that would not be the process for this, as this is a litigation matter, and that matter is an attorney-client privileged matter. So the agreement will occur without it, based on the direction we got in closed session.
Thank you for that update. Okay, sir. I like your button. There's buttons up here if anybody would like them. They're free.
Ridgecrest rocks. I've just realized that we talked about earlier, there's 3 meanings to that now.
Do I want to know all of them?
Well, sure. I mean, we're an incredible community. That's one.
We are.
Second of all, the petroglyphs, are incredible. And third, we got a nice rocking the last, couple of weeks. So, I will apologize that with. I'm sorry?
I wouldn't call it nice.
How about a serious rocking? There we go. I do apologize. I would have liked to have had a PowerPoint presentation for this to talk to you about the 2 paving jobs that are now complete. We've done both the east side of Downs. If you've looked at that, it held up very well under both quakes and all the aftershocks. We have yet to see any cracking at all. It's a rubberized pavement, so we kind of expected that. But the painting's all done, the bicycle path's in, curb and gutter's all in. I would actually have to check with our construction management group to find out what's left to do. I know that we have a few minor things like the handrails on the Mathers building. But other than that, the job is pretty much complete, and it's open to traffic, 2 lanes in each direction now on that side. We did the Sunland project, which was a regular asphalt. It was a CMAQ project. The CMAQ is the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Grant, and we paved a dirt road, so we've cut down on the amount of dust particles that are in the air by doing that. We've reviewed that as well. It seems to be in very good shape crack-wise after the earthquakes. And that was opened either today or yesterday or tomorrow. Okay, I just know that it was very soon that it was supposed to open. The reason it was closed is because the paint lines had to have time to cure. A little bit about the quake. I'm not going to give timelines like I have in the past because you were all here. So basically, after the first quake, we had went and looked at all the primaries and the collectors, and there didn't appear to be any damage at all. After the second quake, we had people out that night that surveyed most of the city. We missed one section because we just ran out of people and it was too late and everybody'd been up, So, and we were out looking for both crumbled houses, damaged houses that you could see from the road were damaged or people might need help, as well as checking for large openings in the road like you saw in Torona and on the base. And we found none of those at the time. We went back out the next morning in daylight and did the roads and the building surveys again and added concrete sidewalks to it, so we had an inventory of what needed to be fixed in town and what was probably a result of the quake. So we have a full inventory of that. It's not actually a whole lot, believe it or not. The primary concern with our roads is we did a review of them then, and since then they've started to crack. Now, this is slightly confusing to me. You would think that when a road is subject to the flex and stuff of the earthquake is when it's going to crack. But it appears that what's happened is it flexes around, and at night when it gets cooler, it contracts some, and that's when it's been cracking. There are new cracks that we found on Downs. We found widened cracks on Ward. I mean, we just crack sealed a whole bunch of it, and now the crack seal has sunk. So we found a whole bunch on there. We've talked it over with Cal OES and FEMA both, and they're in agreement that the ones on Downs and a few other places we found are brand new cracks. And they weren't there real recently. They weren't there necessarily after the first quake, but they've showed up since. So it's either a combination of all the quakes and the aftershocks or something that's causing the cracking. For those of you who want to see it, it's the first couple 3 intersections to the north of Bowman, before Upjohn, between Bowman and Upjohn. You can really see them at the intersections as you come up to them, that type of thing. Let's see, what else? Okay, the
wastewater plant. Jim was out to the wastewater plant soon after the 6.4, looked around. There did not appear to be any problems. After the 7.1, one of the clarifiers had substantial damage to the mechanism. Now, what I'm trying to say is that once they've drained it, it's a great big concrete trough, and there's some cracking, but not significant. It's just the mechanism that needs to be fixed. We can run currently on 2 clarifiers for a period of time, but not forever. Okay, we should have all the spare parts we need to fix it come Monday. They're in shipment right now from Pennsylvania. How long, I have not been given but it takes a while because you'll have to rebuild. And the couple of pieces at the bottom, the gears at the bottom that they have bent or broken. So they either have to get the new ones in, which could take a little while, or they'll probably weld and make them makeshift, and then they'll use them until we've taken down the other 2, and then we can take that one down again and put new ones in once we have them. We ran into some serious problems with lack of electricity and lack of water out there. I will say that Jim said very specifically to me that the public works guys out there are his heroes. When they found out that we were having trouble with all the trouble we were having with the electricity, they prioritized us. Within the next day, they had 6 trucks out there rebuilding the electrical system. Now, there's stuff built across the ground because it's all temporary, but they had it up and running again. I had water lines break everywhere. Unfortunately, right now, we're still feeding critical systems with garden hoses. We're waiting for a bid from a contractor. We're going to go with an emergency contract. I guess our comment is that it needs to be done now. If FEMA decides it's not an emergency later, we're just going to have to pay for it, you know. But we've written a justification. Cal OES says it's a pretty good justification. So we're going to move ahead as soon as we get I'm not willing to move ahead without a quote, okay? So, you know, as soon as we get the quote in, I did call again today to find out where it was. So that takes care of that. So right now, they're using porta potties out there because there's no water to any of the facilities. There's no water. Like I said, we've got garden hose running to the 2 essential systems, the boilers and the clarifiers. So we're making do. The crew out there has been amazing. So I can't say enough about the time and effort they've put in to make sure we can flush our toilets. I know that's kind of slightly crude, but it's absolute truth. That's all I have to, I think that's
Mr. Lauer, can you explain about our hiring of the emergency firm to review our main
sure.
lines?
One of the, and I'm actually leaning close enough today. You guys see that? That or you made it longer, one of the 2. When you have either clay pipes or you have the plastic pipes we have with joints, what can happen is if the earthquake hits, you can have the clay pipes, they can offset. I know I'm not quite close enough. You can still hear me okay? The clay pipes can offset like this. Or if the joint breaks, the plastic pipes can offset. Well, if you look at this, what can happen is water flows and solids flow really nicely when it's like this. When it's like this, the water flows, but the solids can flow a little bit, but they tend to start backing up. The problem with that is that it takes a long time with the gravity system before stuff like this starts showing up. I mean, weeks, months sometimes, because it depends on how much it's offset. So what we're doing is putting together an emergency contract with a firm that will come in and camera all of the lines again. One of the nice things is we did this three or 4 years ago for wastewater, and we'll be able to tell anything that's worse is basically based on the earthquake. So we'll be able to fairly easily say, when FEMA says, well, that's deferred maintenance, we can say, no, we know these are deferred maintenance, but these are new. And that's very important to be able to do that because they like to say, no, that's deferred maintenance. You haven't done your job. We're not paying. So, and they don't do that till after you fix it. So,
Can you also give an update regarding the number of inspections that Public Works
sure.
has done and the number of red tag buildings and the type buildings we're noticing?
So this one I brought written down because I'll never remember other than estimates. So as of last night, we had 1,081 total requests. Now, some of these are duplicates that, and we're in the process of sorting that out. But right now we have 1,081 requests as of last night. We have 85 red tagged. Of those, 8 are commercial, 77 are residential, and we do not have it separated out by mobile home or not. But most of the residential ones are mobile homes. We have done 436 inspections, and we have 89 people that we have call-ins from that do not need an inspection or have not requested an inspection. They just wanted to discuss their damages. Some of those are the emails that we've gotten where we specifically requested, tell us what your damage is, but if you don't think you need an inspection, say so. But that's where we are now. Anything else I forgot? Cool.
I'd like to say thank you. Your staff was out more than I was here, and I felt like I was sleeping on the floor. So I know that your staff was out all the time. At 2:30 in the morning, I saw them coming in and going, we can't do anymore, and then we're back in at 7. So all of city departments deserve a huge congratulations.
Yeah.
I heard one of them saying, my wife is wondering if I'm ever going to come home and help pick up some of this stuff, and they hadn't been home in 3 days. So Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please pass our thanks on to them.
And it wasn't just the street guys. It wasn't just the wastewater guys. Even the transit guys were coming in so they could stage for the hospital and stuff. It was a real team effort. And the inspection guys, they've been here between 12 and 16 hours a day, making sure people are lined out, entering data, that kind of stuff. So, it's been a huge team effort, and I know it's not just Public Works.
We'll thank all the other ones. Yep. Okay, is there any questions anymore? Okay, then we will come to public comment. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Dave, I didn't see you.
The lack of water out there at the wastewater, is that our problem? Is it the base? I don't know who supplies the water out there.
The base provides water. I would say for a portion of the time, it was the base because their water went down for the whole base. But once it came back up, then we noticed that a lot of our water lines inside the fence line, which is ours, had broken.
Oh, dear.
So, for a little bit of the time, it was the base.
Okay.
But the last couple of days, it's been because our water lines broke.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other comment on this particular issue? Scott, are you coming for public comment? Okay, no other comment. Thank you. Okay. Public comment. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Go ahead,
please.
Good
evening, Mayor and City Council members and city officials. It's good to be back. It's good to see that you guys are still here after a little shaking and rocking, but you're still here, tougher than ever.
For the record, would you identify your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is O.C. Crawford. I'm with the True Love Tribe, and I live in Bakersfield, California. And we can see when there's some kind of a national emergency or local emergency, how we all work together. That is incredible. This is the American spirit. And what I've been doing, my family, our tribe, is trying to bring unity in the community and unity between the people and the government and unity within governmental departments. And last year, we honored all the mayors in Kern County. Your mayor wasn't able to come, but she did get her plaque and certificates. And we're hoping that she and all the mayors of Kern County can come again to Bakersfield and select one person or family from the city who is an exemplary person. We want to award these people. We feel these people are leaders for the community. When we hear about and see what they're doing, it encourages others to do it, and this is what we want to do. And we also are going to honor the Kern County Board of Supervisors. Like the mayors, they're working hard and they have a tough job also. And since we honored the mayors, we say we might as well honor the Kern County Board of Supervisors. So again, we're hoping that all the mayors can come and be in person to award their exemplary person. I think you got an email, Mayor? Okay.
I did.
So we want to make this really something. I feel, and my tribe, we feel that Kern County is the best county in America. And not because we're good. There's a lot of good people, a lot of good counties in America, a lot of pretty cities, clean cities. But what we want to do is bring that physical unity of all these people coming together at the planning and the sponsorship of normal citizens. We're just normal citizens. My family is kind of following, supporting me with these crazy ideas, but they're with me. So I feel that if we can go forward and bring this about, we can be a showcase for other counties. We want to be the first, so that other counties can follow behind. We want to bring more unity in this partisan time that we're living in, you know. And I feel Kern County can certainly do that because we are moral people, very moral, people of integrity. And if we can come together and show that unity, I feel it can be an inspiration for the rest, for our county, for our state, for our nation, for the world. So I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. My name is Scott Miller. I'm a resident of Ridgecrest. I guess this question is for the city attorney because I don't know the answer to this question. I understand we're going to go do the arbitration. Is my understanding is what you announced, Ms. Mayor. When that was decided to seek outside counsel, was that a vote for all the council? Was all the council? I understand there's two council people on the phone. I'm assuming. Are they still on the phone? Okay.
They were on the phone and they're on the phone now.
So was there a vote taken of how that? Or can you just? I don't know how that works.
I'm not at liberty to talk about closed session beyond the report I made, which is what I'm authorized to make. But we followed proper procedure in the closed session.
Let me see if I can rephrase my question because I don't know the answer to my question. I'm curious now. Forget about this. Is it typical? And if you're voting if the sky is blue, is that vote taken by council or is there a vote taken on a decision?
So different city councils approach closed session differently, and often it's more informal. Decisions are often made on a more informal basis. However, when important decisions come before the city council, it's a good idea to make sure it's handled through a formalized vote.
Okay.
And that, however, the results of that vote will not be reported to the public as that is a matter of closed session.
Of course, I was unaware of the standard operating procedure on that, so thank you for clarifying that. I do find it interesting, and I'm going to stay true to what council has asked me to make sure that I don't do. I do find it interesting that persons on council made a public statement a year or two ago that they would not cause the city to spend money. And it looks like we're spending our Ridgecrest money on something that was voted and agreed upon by our fine city. That troubles me a little bit. We have two business owners and a third recently retired business owner that understand what an agreement is. Someone recently took me to task saying, is this the way the tribe is going to make money? And I responded to that person and said, if you have an agreement, whether you're buying a house or renting a house or buying a car, and you choose not to follow through with that agreement, are you in fact, is the person that's coming after you, are they in fact trying to get rich from that? I don't think so. There was an agreement made by my city council in the city of Ridgecrest with the Timbershire tribe. Whether you like it, whether you don't like it, it's irrelevant. Whether you have personal feelings for it, it's irrelevant. The decision was made by my city council in my city of Ridgecrest. And for us to go and spend tax dollars by the good citizens of Ridgecrest on an agreement that was done and agreed for troubles me a lot. That's all. I actually have one other thing I think.
Let me just make clear, though, that in this particular, and you're free to express that opinion,
Yes,
obviously, but just so for the public's awareness, we're responding to an arbitration that was filed against the city. In other words, the city did not elect to join the procedure. We were now required to defend ourselves, and my recommendation to the city council was to hire counsel to defend that matter. So we're responding to something. We're not electing to join something.
You're responding to make sure that we're on the same page, and I don't want to get into an argument with you at all. But you're responding to an arbitration from the Timbershire tribe in opinions of the tribe and certain persons of the city that the city chose not to follow through with on an agreement. So yes, you would be responding to an arbitration that's written into the MSA, that if something doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, there'd be arbitration. So yes, you agreed upon that. I take that back. I'm sorry. City council agreed upon to go on to arbitration. Absolutely. And did you want to do it? I don't know. People voted. Excuse me. There's been a decision made by, again, my city council in my city of Ridgecrest to go against what the same city council in the same city said they would do 3 years ago. So, agreed. You are 100% on target with what you said, sir. It troubles me greatly that my council also said we won't spend any money. I guess one other question, and I don't know if this is going to be answered, but will the monies that will be used on that, will that be coming out of the general fund? Let me rephrase that question. Will the monies, the attorney that y'all mentioned that will be doing counsel, if you will the funds be used by, I can't see what I'm trying to figure out what I want to say now. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, originally that will be paid for by the general fund, but ultimately there's an attorney's fees provision in that agreement. So if the city prevails, then the opposing party would be paying the fees and vice versa.
And if the city were not to succeed, I think in that same MSA it says there could be damages also, correct? And the city would have to pay the damages if they in fact lost, and they would have to pay attorney's fees. Is that also correct, sir?
Potentially.
Fair enough. Thank you. I think my time is now over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dave Matthews. My address is on file. This is also my city council and a lot of other people's city council. I'm not going to say much about the earthquake except that during both major quakes, I did a lot of fast and loud praying. I think a lot of other people did too. What I would like to mention this evening is that during this week, we, our country, I guess, the NASA, are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first Apollo 11 mission, in which we took a giant step forward for mankind. Those are Neil Armstrong's quotes, not mine. And I want to mention that I was lucky enough to be working at Hughes Electro-Optical Systems in Culver City at the time, and I feel that we, as a team down there, had a slight hand in getting that mission up there and on time. Well, it was a little bit delayed, I think, a couple of times, but we had something to do with it, because when the two vehicles come together in a rendezvous to come back home, there is a radar system which allowed them to join up, and it was being built at the time by RCA, Radio Corporation of America. They were having problems with it. NASA came to us in Culver City because they had already bid on an electro-optical system, and they asked us to go ahead and start that system up in case the radar didn't get solved. Their problems didn't get solved. And that was the best project I have ever worked on in my life. And I still remember it, and I still keep in contact with a few people that I was working with at the time. But we did it in 18 months, from go ahead to engineering model testing, several of them, I think it was about 12 actually, and completely qualified and ready to go if the radar system did not function. So if you really want to know what it was like back then, I would suggest you visit some of these videos and sites that are going to be available from NASA at this time. It was also, I would like to mention, done under the auspices of a Democratic president, John F. Kennedy, one of the few Democratic presidents that I almost voted for. And part of the reason was, if you remember his quote, if you read his quote, he challenged us as citizens and youth. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And we did it. And a lot of other people did it. Some amazing things. We've come a long way in those 50 years. We did not have cell phones, computers that we can carry around in our pockets. It was all very crude, but it all came together. And in a lot of cases, Murphy did prevail. That is Murphy's Law. Look it up if you don't know what it is. But in most cases, it didn't prevail, and we were successful. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you for your service.
Good evening, Mayor Breeden and City Council. My name is Solomon Rajaratnam, address 605 Suzanne Street. I don't know where to start, but past 2 weeks have been rough on all of us, and it has been a traumatic experience for all of us, but thank God we passed through that experience. And the damage could have been more, but we lucked out. So a lot of people and many organizations have come together to help each other in this community. So as a responsible citizen, no matter what we have, whether we have differences about casino, whether we have differences about water overdraft, whether we have differences about in God we trust, I thought it's my responsibility to come here and go on record thanking some of the people who helped during this crisis. So at the outset, I want to thank Mayor Breeden for a spectacular job she has done during this crisis and for her tremendous leadership in coordinating all the events. Thank you very much, ma'am. We really appreciate it.
It was a team effort. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to thank the City Council for the support they have given to the various organizations and various efforts that have been put through. So thank you very much, City Council, in this regard. And I also want to thank Supervisor Mick Gleason for his leadership and for his untiring efforts in coordinating all the events, all the efforts with the city, with Mayor Breeden. And together, the city and the Kern County have done a fabulous job in taking care of all the issues here. Then, most important, all my praises go to Chief Jed. You have done a tremendous job So leading all the efforts, for the way you have led this community, for the way you have called for the town hall meeting, for the way you have arranged the community event in a short period of two days after the earthquake. Those events brought the community together and calmed down everybody and made sure Ridgecrest can be a stronger community when we all come together. So I really appreciate your efforts on this. So you need a great applause in this. So I would appreciate. Thank you very much, sir. And I want to thank the city manager for his support, for the support you have given to the city council and Chief Jed in all his efforts. And I have a list of people I need to thank. I don't want to miss anybody. I want to thank the Sheriff's Office, the federal teams, our first responders, EMTs, Red Cross, FEMA, USGS, local businesses, other organizations, and the city department for all their efforts in making sure everybody is reached out during this crisis. And we have good leadership at the national as well as state level. So I want to go on record thanking Congressman Kevin McCarthy for his support, and Senator Shannon Grove for her support, and Assemblyman Vince Wong for his support, and reaching out to us immediately without any further delay. And I want to thank Governor Newsom for coming here and declaring state of emergency so that we have resources available at our feet whenever we need it. And at this time, my thoughts and prayers go out to the China Lake Base, Cyrils Valley Minerals School District, Sarcosa Community College, Water District, and Hospital as they regroup and rebuild to make this a better community. Last but not least, I want to thank our beloved community for once again coming together and helping each other. I remember when our community came together after 9/11 attacks, and we have done the same with greater resolve this time. And together we'll make sure Ridgecrest rocks, as you said, Mayor, and together we'll make sure Ridgecrest is a greater place to live for our generations to come. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. Don't think we're going to be able to beat that, but, thank you all for what you guys have done over the past 2 weeks. Name is Stephen Birdwell, 224 Oasis Drive. I do have a question, and it kind of follows what Scott Miller brought up earlier. I know there's a procedure that's done before all the litigation and everything. Was there a meet and confer request placed to the City Council at all?
I'm not going to, I can't provide any information that would be covered by attorney-client privilege.
Okay, so just saying if there was, if it wasn't responded to, that would have led to litigation. That is correct?
I'm not going to play this game. I told you that we're not going to comment on it.
It's a basic question of law. If it's not responded to, it would lead to litigation. That's not closed comment or anything. Is that right?
I think he's given you his answer.
Well, I think that just kind of confirms what I believe. You guys have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
My name is Suzette Caulfield. I'm an economic development specialist with Kern County for the Ridgecrest area. I wanted to make sure that our community was aware that there are some resources on the city website that will help you rebuild. So I didn't get it here to put up, but on the front page, in the center here, there's a little map. And when you click on that map, it comes up with quake relief information. So the City of Ridgecrest Police Department is listing their press releases there. The local area assistance center has a contact list so that if you're wondering who to contact at the federal, state, county, and local areas. You have names and phone numbers and websites to go to. And from Public Works, who did an excellent job in making sure everything got taken care of over the last couple of weeks, there's a California construction contractors list that includes all of the active licenses that are within our valley. So all the contractors who have active licenses are listed there, and you can go there, and they've got phone numbers that you can call. So you have quite a list, 170 to go to. We list the manufactured home contractors in Kern County. So for those who have trailers that need to be put back up or have some work done on them, there's a list there of licensed contractors. We have a list of structural engineers who are from Kern County for you to utilize if you need that help. And then there's some information about manufactured and mobile home repair permits and jurisdictions. For your information, we've had a lot of, as Bard said, we've had quite a few of our trailers and mobile homes get red tagged, and they're going to need some help to get back up and be able to be livable units again. So I just wanted to relay that and share it with our community. Thank you.
Thank you. You sing our song well. Thank you, Suzette. Is there any other public comment?
Bard Lauer. One of the things that I haven't noticed a lot of thanks going out to is the immense amount of volunteers we had come in. We've been running the call. Suzette actually has been running the call center since Saturday. Hasn't missed a beat the entire time. Without it, we wouldn't have done anywhere near as well as we have. We've also had volunteers come in that are retired engineers, retired contractors that we sent out their call for a week ago or so, have been manning the phones. We had volunteers come in to do inspections the first 3 or 4 days before we actually could get people in from the other cities in the jurisdiction. So I think that one of the huge thank yous that needs to go out, and I don't know how to do it other than here, is to just say, the volunteers have been amazing and we couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you. We all echo that. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, then we will go to council announcements. I'm going to start with you all on the phone. Wallace or Mike, would any one of you like to say anything?
I have nothing.
I'm assuming silence means no other.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having technical issues here. I don't have any comment. Thank you.
Okay. Lindsay? Scott?
I'm proud to live in Ridgecrest.
I'd like to thank all of our volunteer organizations. I couldn't even begin to name them all. Everybody who is collecting money, offering their businesses so people can come in and bring things to share with the community, things to give. We have a huge amount of public and private organizations who are saying, count me in, and I'm so very proud of all of them. And if I tried to name them, I would still be here tomorrow and I wouldn't have named all of them. So all you unnamed organizations and people who have given above and beyond, our sincere thanks. Okay, the next item is consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by city staff and will be approved in one motion if no member of the council or the public wishes to comment or ask questions. If comments or discussion is desired by anyone, the items may be removed from the consent calendar and be considered separately with public comment before action is taken. Do any members of the council wish to have this item pulled? Proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council, successor redevelopment agency, financing authority, housing authority, regular meeting dated 6/19. Anybody? Any public? Okay, motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Hammond.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin, do you have a vote?
I'm sorry, aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Because the entire council is not here, we cannot vote except by resolution and actual voting. So that's why we're going through this, because not everybody is here. Okay, discussion and action items. Discussion and proposed action to approve a resolution designating a voting member and alternate to attend the League of California Cities annual conference and represent the city of Ridgecrest. Rika?
Yes, ma'am. Every year, the League of California Cities has an annual conference. This year, it's scheduled for October 16th through the 18th in Long Beach. And the City Council has to elect a primary and an alternate to attend and be our voting delegate. I have already reserved 3 spots for the conference. They're not in anybody's name at this point, so you just need to hold discussions and decide who's going to be the primary and who's going to be the secondary, and you need to be able to attend, so keep that in mind in your discussions.
Well, as you are representing us on the League of Cities, are you able to attend that?
Yes, I am and would like to.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to go?
I'm normally the alternate for the league, and I've gone the past several years, and I would like to go again as well.
Okay, is there anybody else? Okay, then we will approve that. A motion to approve, please.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, Mayor Breeden, with concurrence of the council, will appoint a replacement member to the Planning Commission. And Scott, this is your appointment. Would you address that, please?
Yes, I appointed Vanessa Heyman as a planning commissioner, and she is willing to do the work. And I've known her for many years, and she works well with others in the community. She actually worked for me for several years and still does on a part-time basis. So it's somebody that I know and trust that will do a good job and commit to it. And I think she'll be a good candidate. So.
Is there any questions? Is she here?
No, she could not attend tonight.
Is there any questions of Councilman Heyman regarding this? Is there any questions from the public? Okay. Scott, can you give us just a little bit of her background of why she decided she wanted to do, so we know who she is and her expertise or interest?
Sure. She's worked in public, worked with the public for years in my office, and does well in working with people in general. She's very pleasant. She's really good on computers. She's very, let's just say, keeps her finger on the pulse on what's going on in the city. I don't know how to put this in a real positive light, but some of these younger generation are very good at following social media, following activities, and she's one of these people that if I have a question, wanted to know what's going on, I could ask Vanessa. She stays on top of things, and so I think she will bring a good common sense, good citizen of Ridgecrest point of view to the Planning Commission. Although her expertise may not be in building particularly, I don't know that that's always a necessary trait to have when we're looking at someone for this commission. I think having people from a wide variety of backgrounds is a good thing. So, I think she's ethical and a good person for the job.
I know this question is going to come up, so I'm going to ask it. She has the same last name as you do. Could you?
She is my daughter-in-law.
Okay.
So clear that
Okay.
question.
Okay, so is there any other comments or questions from the council? Any other questions from the public? A motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries. Okay, the next item. A resolution to approve a professional services agreement with the engineering firm of QK Incorporated in the amount of $65,994 to prepare environmental documents, plans, specifications, and construction management for the West Tamarisk Avenue Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program project between North Inyo Street and 100 feet west of Capehart Court. Authorize the city manager, Ron Strand, to execute the agreement, and authorize the finance director to amend the budget to reflect all appropriate capital revenue and transfer accounts and create a purchase order for QK Incorporated. Sir?
Madam Mayor, members of council. Bard Lauer, Public Works Director. This is basically a request for us to do a professional services contract for QK. I can repeat everything that the mayor just read, but basically what it is it's a contract for $65,994. It's to do the plans, the environmental, and to do construction management. This is divided up into 3 areas. It's about $10,000 for the environmental. It's about $25,000 for the design, and approximately $30,000 for the construction management portion of this. The money is to come out of Measure V. This is a CMAQ project. It was brought to council before it was ever applied for. Council approved it at the time to move forward. What it's going to do is anybody that knows this street, it's a half street, basically from the apartment buildings to Inyo, I believe. And what this will design is not only the fill-in of that, but we'll then use the paving dollars that we mentioned earlier this year, the $1 million that we're going to use on a paving program. We use some of that to repave the rest of the street because it's in need, and the intersection as well. Not the one at Downs, the one at the other end. So this resolution approves a professional services contract, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point in time.
I have one, sir. On the federal participation of $168,816, that is money that is not being paid by us, except we have the local match of $63,326, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Now that's only to be used, I'm sorry, should I listen to the rest of the question? Or?
No, go ahead.
I wanted to explain that the $63,000 is what is coming, are you saying, from Measure V?
The $65,000 for this will pay for Measure V.
Okay.
And there's a match on top of that this is not included.
Right.
As well.
Okay.
But also the paving for the rest of the street will also be proposed to come from Measure V when we come back for a construction contract. But it will come out of the money already designated for repaving streets.
Okay, thank you.
This was also discussed with just the infrastructure committee already.
Right.
Just to clarify, the 168, pardon my voice, everyone, but the 168 plus the 63 added together is the 232, and so we budgeted exactly the right amount of the bid, or?
Well, for this part, we had had mentioned that we needed money to do the design and the construction management, though the $30,000 for the construction management might be included in. I'd have to look back to be completely positive, but it might be included in the construction portion, which might be covered by the 168 and the 63. So it might work out that way, okay? But now, what's not included is the cost in any of this, the cost to pave the rest of the street, which will come out of the paving portion.
And we
Because
don't know what that amount is yet.
we don't. No, it will know more once the design's done, because then we'll have an estimate.
Okay. And then under construction management, that includes quality assurance
It
as
does.
well? Okay. Because some of our work that we've had done hasn't lasted as long as that we thought it was going to. So just making sure that.
Okay, but it does include the quality assurance.
Okay.
Is there any other comments?
I just have a quick question on the paving aspect of it. Is it going to be a complete repaving of the entire road, or just the one half that's not paved currently?
Unfortunately, the way you asked the question, the answer is yes to both of them, which is not the answer you're looking for. So we will be repaving the half that's not paved. Well, no, I'm sorry. We will pave the half that's not paved. We will repave the half that is paved, and the intersection just to the west.
Okay.
Is that now that
No,
I
it does.
think
I
answers
just
your
was curious
question?
about the old asphalt. If that was going to be, taken out and all new asphalt put in, or if we're going to have half of a, new road with new asphalt and then a degraded.
Yeah, we looked at that, and once we knew it had to be done. We weren't exactly sure how we were going to take the money, but now that we have the $1 million for paving, it kind of opened up a way to do this that made sense.
And so it'd be all new pavement, both, it'd be repaved, and
The answer is all the top will be new, but what we'll probably do is a mill on the old pavement that comes. It's not a very thick pavement. That's why it doesn't look very good. Okay, but the more pavement we leave there, the better base the road has. So we'll mill down at the edge of the roadway, but leave the middle completely there. Does that make sense? So
Sure.
that way we don't have to take out the curb and gutter. The curb and gutter on the other side, on the north side, is actually being put in by the developer.
No, I'm really pleased to see it getting fixed, and I lived on that street for many years, and right in front of the unpaved section, and so I know all the people that live there now are going to be really pleased to have that finally fixed. So good to see it.
I'm glad we could find the money to do all of it.
Yeah,
at the same time.
It's going to be a real benefit.
Is there any other comments from council on the phone?
No.
Okay, is there any
No,
comments?
no.
Okay, is there any comments from the public? Okay, thank you.
Hang on.
Yep, I see them.
Hello, my name's Jeff Scott. I live on Inyo Street, right near where this project is proposed. So I would agree it's sorely needed. Having lived there for many years, I've seen a lot of people, two cars try to pass on half a street, especially when there's pedestrians or people parked nearby. It can be kind of difficult. You addressed part of the question I had. My understanding was that the reason only half was paved was because the other side was undeveloped. And now it is being developed, so my assumption was, perhaps an incorrect one, that the developer would pay for paving that portion of the street, but they're only paying for the gutter and sidewalk, and the city's paying for the actual street.
This project was put in before the development moved forward at all. So that's why this project is taking care of the street, because it came about before the developer moved forward at all. We would have paved just the half of the street. Would not have put in curb and gutter or anything. So we decided to continue to move forward with the project, and the developer is willing to work with us at the same time to make sure all crosscuts and stuff are done before we do the paving. They're going to put in the curb and gutter and the sidewalk.
All right, thank you.
And we wouldn't have been able to use the CMAQ money, program money, if the developer.
I missed what I guess I didn't understand what you said.
The CMAQ, most of this is being paid for through the CMAQ program, and if a developer was involved, we wouldn't be able to use that program, correct?
We would lose the money that we're getting for this project if the developer was putting in the roadway, yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest to levy and collect sewer fees on the general tax rolls for the fiscal year 2019 and 20. Sir?
Madam Mayor, members of council, I need to check to make sure that Stacy or Miranda are on the line, please. Are you guys out there?
Hi, Miranda's here.
Okay, hi, Miranda.
Miranda's here. Stacy's not.
Thank you, guys. This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest to levy and collect a sewer fee on the general tax rolls for fiscal year 1920. What this is the council in 2013 approved a new set of fees. Last year, the year before last was the last raise in the fees. Last year and this year are constant fees. Well, constant fees sounds wrong. They did not increase. They stayed constant is what I meant to say. The collection of the flat rate charge on the property tax bill is what you're approving. It's not an increase, as I said. Construction, this covers construction, expansion, maintenance, and operation of the city's wastewater treatment plant and collection facilities. So what we're asking council to do is direct staff to bill and collect service charges for those properties whose status is tax exempt and not on the county tax rolls, in addition to putting these on the tax rolls. What that means is anybody that pays property tax, whether it be commercial or whether it be a single or multi or mobile home, there's a fee assigned to it, and it's put on the tax rolls. There are certain entities, such as the community college, churches, that type of thing, that I believe churches that don't pay property tax. So we do handbills every year. You're authorizing us to go through and do handbills as well for those. And I will take questions at this point in time.
I understand that there is no rate increase for multifamily dwellings or for single. What about businesses?
What about they?
The businesses?
No, ma'am.
Okay, because we didn't
And not for the
say-
last 2 years.
I know, we didn't say that, and I wanted to make sure that everybody understood. This is basically putting it on the tax rolls, not a raise in fees.
If you, now, again, I know you've seen it, but just for those out there, if you look at the Exhibit B, you'll notice that since 2018, for all the single-family, multifamily, mobile homes, and all businesses, it has not changed.
Okay. I wanted to make sure the public understood that.
Madam Mayor, this is a resolution that we pass every year. It's required by law to be able to put it on the tax rolls. If we don't do this, then we have to handbill it at an extreme expense to the city. And if we don't handbill, then we lose just a little bit shy of $6 million towards the wastewater enterprise fund. So this is no increase. This is just a normal action that we do every year, that we've done every year, probably since the city's been in existence.
I understand that. I just wanted to make sure the public did, because I've gotten calls, well, how much is mine going up? And I said, it isn't going up. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't telling somebody anything incorrectly. Okay, is there any other council comments? Sir.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask a question. I'd like to follow up with what you just asked. Exhibit B shows through 18. It doesn't show what 19 is going to be. So what Art is saying is that 19 is the same as what's showing on 18 for all the commercial rates. Is that correct?
The last raise was in the 2018. 19 last year was the same. 20 this year that we're proposing is the same.
Okay.
City Council has not gone through the 218 process to increase the fees. For us to increase the fees, we'd have to do a 218 hearing, which this is not. This is just a resolution placing it on the tax rolls.
Is there any other?
I understand that, but the problem is, I understand, but the problem is the resolution says there's no fee increase for single family or multifamily. It doesn't say there's no increase for commercial.
That was my question, and then Bart answered that because it just named those two, it really should have been, there is no increase.
I will make sure that next year it says that, but it does say so in Exhibit B, which it says, so.
Mike?
I agree with your comment, Mike.
Okay, is there any other council comment? Okay, public comment. Sir.
Hi, I'm Skip Gorman. Live within a balkanized, detached portion of the city of Ridgecrest. There's a little bit of awkwardness when a couple of members of the city council aren't here, but just their voices are. I have an easy question regarding this. If indeed a parcel is within the city but not currently hooked up to the city sewer system, would they expect to see this on their property taxes?
From what I understand, okay, and I could be wrong, and if you leave me your name and number, I'll do more research, okay? But that all city properties pay a sewer accessibility fee, which is what this is.
Oh. My friend, thank you.
Yes. But now, again, if you leave me your name and number, I can give you a call and I can make sure I understand the question, and I can make sure that I have exactly the right answer for you.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, no other council comment? Okay, motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
I believe that was an aye. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Yeah, aye.
Okay. The next item is a discussion of sending a letter of opposition regarding Senate Bill 266, Public Employees Retirement System. I've got a letter from the League of Cities, and I couldn't believe that they were going to ask us to pay disallowed benefits out of our general fund, and I wanted our staff to look at it because it seemed to me that it was a double payment. And when I went and looked on the issue from CalPERS, I saw indeed it was that a double payment would be made if this is approved by the House and the Senate. And it isn't in the Senate right now, but they're saying within a couple, I'll read you this. There's a good chance this bill will be heading to the Assembly for after the Appropriation Committee hearing. Therefore, it is critical that all Assembly members hear from their cities on this bill. While the legislature is slated to go on summer recess, they need to hear from us by July 12th. And I wanted to get this on, even if it is a little bit late. It will be a day late, but I want to be it on there so we can be on record as against this. And the League of Cities sent us a sample letter, and we have it here. And I want to make sure that the honorable Assemblyman understands that as part of the Appropriations Committee, and that we send a copy to our legislator, Vince Fong. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
This is overreaching government, and I totally agree with you, Madam Mayor, and I strongly oppose it.
I agree.
Okay, so I see no public comment, no other council comment. Okay, then a motion?
So moved.
We actually don't need a motion on this. If you just give me direction, I can
send the letter.
Send that letter. Correct?
That's right.
Yes.
Send the letter. Send the letter.
Send the letter.
You got it.
Got it.
Okay, the next item, discussion and provide guidance to the city's representative on the board of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Scott?
Yes, the only big news I have to share with everybody is the grant money has begun to come in.
And so the finances of the GA are looking much better. And so we're looking forward to further grant monies coming in down the road, which we're on track for. So that's the only real update I have at this point. So.
Okay, is there any discussion or comments? Dave, are you coming up, sir? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Dave Matthews here. Scott, I would like the, whatever they are, to consider filing claims against the LADP. There have been a number of units, I understand, entities, I understand, up and down the Owens Valley and the eastern side of the Sierras who have done that, and quite a few of them have been successful. So I think in this time when we're in such under such stresses for water, that they should maybe pursue that avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the next item is the formation of Landscaping and Lighting District number 2019-1, track number 6908, and concurrent annexation to Landscaping and Lighting District number 20121 as Zone 4. Bart?
This is the initiation of the proceedings for the formation of a lighting and landscaping district. And I'll repeat again, 18-1 and concurrent annexation to Landscaping and Lighting District 2012-1 as Zone 4. This is the preliminary approving of the engineer's report for the formation of the Landscaping and Lighting District. And it's declaring of the city's intention to levy assessments, conducting required protest ballot proceedings, and setting a time and place for the public hearing.
Okay, so we are going to then open the public hearing.
Nope, that's the next one. This is just an intent.
I'm ahead. Thank you.
It's all right.
All right, thank you. All right, comments? Questions?
Chuck Ruland, 1213 Carolyn. I got some papers here that I wanted to give you guys. There.
Sorry,
While we're
Chuck,
doing
didn't
that,
want to
Jim,
push
are you
this
on the
too
line?
far of you.
I am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Should we read these to them? Have you?
I'm going to basically read it.
Okay, so you all.
So what's included with it is the max assessments for both districts, or for two different districts, so you can compare them, and then the reports, not the full reports on the back page, but the sheet that shows all the fees. So on 6908, the way it currently sits, there's no way I'm going to sign the ballot as it is. I've got two different districts that are about the same as far as square footage and same amount of street lights. If you look at the difference between the two districts, one's 6908, which is the one we're discussing, and then 7188. Annual lighting for 13 lights is 2744, where annual lighting on 6908 is 1120. 7188 comes out to $211 per light per year. Track 6908 comes out to $112 per light per year. We're on LS1, which is $9.35 per pole per month, fixed cost. We've discussed it. That's the reason why it got lowered to $1,120. The landscaping for 6908, the proposed is $3,446 for 5,775 square feet of DG, compacted DG. Then we have landscaping for the other track, 7,460 square feet of DG. That's $372 annually. You go down to the rehabilitation You got the lighting rehabilitation is $112 annually for lighting. LS1, there is no reason for rehabilitation. If there's any issues, SCE takes care of it. Same with 7188, but you see there, that one's $372. So an additional, basically 300% increase for 3 additional lights. You go to the landscaping rehabilitation, you've got 6908 is $519 of rehabilitation. Obviously that's excessive if you're going to just have DG, and you've got $28 annually on 7188. You go to the administration, you've got $1,643 annually for track 6908, which is the one that we're talking about right now. Down the street, same area, almost identical development, is $2,636 annually. So my point is none of these numbers are even close. I mean, line item by line item, they're not even close. And I think when we're trying as a city to earn trust, I mean, we want these districts to look right. And even in my documents with my district, I have to explain this to my buyers. It says right in there, I'm responsible for letting the buyers know. I mean, I'm not going to sign them up for something that I don't think is fair, number one, and doesn't even match the exact same condition down the street. We've gone over this many times, and we've gotten nowhere on this. And so I think from a city standpoint, you guys should be asking, we've paid $16,500 for these 2 reports. They're literally almost exactly the same. And I would be asking, why are these numbers not even close? I mean, is there an explanation? Because there's a mythology to it. It's usually done by square footage. It's done by plant count. So you can't favor one development to the next. I mean, I tried to make it as simple as possible, putting it on one page and having, 2 districts right in front of all of us to see. And then if there's some explanation, I'll be glad to hear it.
Sir, can you help us with that?
Well, hopefully Jim can, but I guess kind of what I want to talk about is he talks about where they aren't the same. But if you look at the right-hand column, which is the proposed assessment for both of them, and Jim, you can come in and correct me after I'm done here, okay? But it's $1,007 total for the annual operations and $947. That looks pretty close to me. It's $154 for rehabilitation and $104. It's $29.51 and $25.27 for the total annual expenses. To me, they look awful close. Now, I agree that sometimes the left-hand one, which is potential that they're looking for, is higher and different. But the right-hand columns, which we've talked about several times, are fairly close to each other. So I'm not sure. Now, Jim, did you want what did you need to say on this? Now, again, Jim doesn't have this document. I don't have this document.
It's just based off. I mean, it's
I'm not arguing. It's just that it'd been nice if we had the document so I could read it instead of trying to figure out.
I can give you one.
It's okay. You've been through it. It's okay. But Jim doesn't have it either, is what I'm trying to say. And Jim's our expert on this. So, Jim, did you want to make some comments, please?
Well, ultimately, bottom line, the budgets aren't what makes the difference. What he's voting on is the assessment rate. One district has an assessment rate of $149. The other one's being proposed at $152 for their maximum assessment. That's the issue. I mean, that's what he's voting on is the assessment rate. Doesn't make any difference how the numbers get distributed, really. I mean, because at some point in time, as you can see in the report in this particular report, what's being levied for the current or proposed for the current fiscal year, the assessment's $151 per unit, per benefit unit, which is under the maximum, but the numbers are significantly less. You can't look at all the different budget numbers because they're calculated on different things. So the maximum budget for 6908 we're assuming that at some point in time there may be landscaping. I understand that the plan right now is just to put in DG like the other tracks, like 7188. And that, if that's the case, then we'll never get to the maximum assessment. It's never going to be levied because the cost won't be there. You won't have the irrigation. You won't have the landscaping to maintain. You're just going to have DG to maintain, which does have a cost, but certainly not what landscaping costs. By law, you can't levy more than what it costs to maintain the improvement.
I think
and whatever money you do collect is going to stay in the district.
It sounds like what the concern is, though, is that there's a big difference between the maximum and what he's paying, and then there's some significant variance between 7188 and how it's calculated and the 6908, and they're relatively similar parcels. So I could see, and I think the other concern is that, yeah, it looks good for next year, but then in the following years, it could go up to the maximum, and he could be forced to pay that maximum price if he doesn't sell all of his properties.
Well, for all intents and purposes, he's being assessed for this fiscal year almost at the maximum, although the benefit units are adjusted because part of his property is vacant. Ultimately, as a city, you need to protect yourself. If this gets in and if we don't approve a maximum assessment rate that's high enough, and all this stuff gets put in, and all the homes are there, and we go, oh my gosh, this is costing more to maintain. Guess what? You have to go to those property owners now and go for a Prop 218 proceeding again and ballot them to increase their assessment. All we're doing in this process is establishing a maximum assessment.
I think what's confusing this is that when Track 6908 was approved by the Planning Commission, they required that landscaping and irrigation be put in. Staff has made the recommendation to allow him to put DG in and no irrigation. And that's what's confusing this, is that when you purchased that 6908, you purchased it with that condition to put in landscaping and irrigation, and we've taken it out. Now, I know that Bard talked about next year reducing that number down to where it needs to be with that reflection of that change, but when you purchased this, you purchased it with that condition that we have made, the city's made that adjustment to you.
I did the same thing on 7188.
Correct.
I purchased it and it was taken off, and we came to an agreement, you and I signed it, even though even the light, if you just, the fixed lighting, I mean, you can add up to 13 lights and you can figure out if you think the lighting on 7188 is correct. But I'm going to agree with the gentleman on the phone. He's absolutely just picking a number and throwing numbers to try to get this thing to $150, a unit. I mean, he's absolutely correct. He even said, it doesn't matter. None of the items matter. We're just going to throw numbers around. And I've been dealing with this. I see it every day. Bart told me part of this was his own words in case we have hyperinflation. I mean, seriously, there's no product. You're not buying nothing. I mean, you've got, and I agreed to sign up for it. I'm trying to work with you. I haven't gone to the public. I've tried to meet with you. I've been working on this since March. I met with Heather. Heather showed me in the RMC where we can do DG, compacted, it's called compacted hardscape, which is exactly what they referenced in 7188.
Correct.
Compacted hardscape.
But instead of not requiring you to go back to Planning Commission, staff made the decision, allowed you to put DG in.
Right.
When you purchased both of those tracks, you purchased it knowing that had to be in. Staff made that consideration. Now, what we're asking on this is that if we don't have the proper ceiling in this agreement, and if all that stuff goes in, and there's not enough money collected, it has to come out of the general fund. So whatever amount is in here that we're collecting is the amount that we need to establish reserves to be able to pay the bills. Because we want to collect money up front, and then when the bills come in, we have money to be able to pay, so we're not having to rob Peter to pay Paul.
But they're not even closed. It's like $8,000 for literally, I even had to clean up my own track. You know, I've went out on the median, which is not part of the district, and I've cleaned up all the tumbleweeds and getting ready to go clean the median. I get what you're saying, and that's why I'm trying to be reasonable. That's why I tried to work with Bard without going public, because this is where we get the issues that we're running into. This is completely ridiculous that we're going to throw a number out of $150, and you guys are all explaining it. Ron, you're explaining it. Bard's explaining it. The guy on the phone's explaining it. You're just arbitrarily throwing a number out there. What you're supposed to be doing is you're supposed to be charging what you need to get the money back from the taxpayers.
Well,
I mean, if you go look at Walmart's, it's the worst district. The median in front of Walmart is absolutely the worst thing you'll ever see in any landscape lighting district anywhere. We've lost 70% of the plant life. We've got tumbleweeds that are 4 feet tall. We've got trash up against the I mean, go look for yourself. I took a bunch of photos. I've been dealing with it a couple times that I've done this. They actually go out and clean it up. But that's a special assessment. We're charging that Walmart and all those taxpayers money to maintain it. It's not even getting maintained. It's the same thing that's going to happen out here. That's why we have compacted DG. If this number was even remotely close to what it's going to cost, and again, we have LS1. We have 10 streetlights times $9.35 times 10 times 12 months, and you'll see the real impact to the city. I realize that's why our consultant wants this. They get $1,000 a year per district to stamp it, add 3.5%, and send it to staff, and staff presents it to you guys. You guys are not getting accurate numbers. And if they are accurate, which one is? You can't, I mean, I don't have to explain myself further. You guys have explained it. And I've done everything I possibly can to work this out. I mean, it's asking me, explain to your customers this. I'm not going to do it. You know, you're throwing a number of, I know it needs, everybody wants to be around $150. And then they will, and here's the problem. So I sign up to this, and we have, say, like, for example, last week, an earthquake. And I'm stuck with all these lots where I got to pay $150 a year. As soon as I record them, they're $150 whether there's a house on it or not. Okay, if we get a different city manager, we get different council, we get different public works director, I'm going to be paying the maximum potentially. There's no reason to have a maximum that's going to have landscaping in it when I haven't even ran any of the infrastructure. Are you going to bore underneath the road and put trees in? No. So it shouldn't be there. We've talked about it many times, and I met with, I think I met with Heather on May 5th. I paid my civil to provide her with a plan that showed DG, and I haven't heard a word back since because she showed me in the RMC exactly where it says you can do this. That is how we came up with this resolution on 7188. 7188, I agreed to ridiculous charges just to get the thing to go away. I mean, this is not going to cost the city nearly what they're charging 7188. And then I get these two development, one has 46 lots, one have 40, and our engineer that's on the phone's telling us they arbitrarily just throw to hit a number. Well, it's a money grab.
And I have one thing to say, because I just asked this, because we just went through this process over on the Walmart. They update these reports every year, and we vote on them every year. So why would we make it a maximum number so high for this year that we know is not correct? And why, I mean, this causes a lot of mistrust. I'm sorry, Jim, but to say that it doesn't matter how the numbers fall, it kind of does to people, because you're putting it in the report and it's there for everyone to see, and it's very confusing how it's calculated. And so I think we need consistency, and we're paying a lot of money. We're charging our citizens or our developers a lot of money for these reports that seem to be very inconsistent. And it has money in here for lighting, rehabilitation, and renovation when the lights aren't even ours anymore. They're signed over to SCE, and they take care of the lights. So it doesn't seem like these reports are. And then my understanding is we had him pay additional money to get the report fixed, and he's still
you
not.
Guys can explain to me what I wrote a check for $1,500. Again, I write some of these checks just to keep the thing going. I don't even know what it was. I
Okay,
wrote another
so
check for $1,500
hang on a minute.
for 2 months
First
ago.
of all, you've said a lot of things, okay? Have you done, I mean, you keep mentioning the lights are 9-something. I think they're actually, since nothing's recorded as LED yet, I think we're still being charged at the higher rate, which is like 12-something a month. But even if we take, hang on, you said you have 10 lights, right?
10 lights.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So hang on a minute. Now I got to get back in. If you have 10 lights times $9.95 a month times 12 months, it's $1,100. Now you don't have all your lights in, so that's why the dollars on both. Again, I'm going back to just the right-hand sides.
That's
okay.
not what I'm even talking about.
But
I mean, I see what you're saying,
you
Bart.
keep saying I'm going to pay $8,000 or I'm going to pay.
I don't want to have to come in here yearly and fight this same fight. Why don't you just make the max assessment correct? That's what I'm asking you to do. Just make it correct.
Chuck, let him answer first, and then.
Okay, I mean,
and then,
but I can't.
I guess it
I
doesn't
understand what you're saying.
Do you guys all understand that there's two sides? There's the side that's the maximum assessment, and then there's what they're going to assess me. And if you go look at the history of these, they're giving the maximum assessment to most people, and they're trying to just get me to go away. When I go away, you'll find out what's going to happen. I'm not going to sign my customers up for it.
Okay, let him answer it, and then let's see if we can talk about it, okay?
But the lights, are the max is close to what it be will when all of them are in. If you actually use now, first of all, the 7188 was prepared, I don't know, a year ago or so. Okay, the new one, the 6908, is a fairly new one. If you take a look, the lighting numbers are $1,120, which is exactly what your max said. What the math calculates out. I'm sorry.
You lowered it after I calculated it for you.
But that's you said we're not working with you. We most
well,
certainly.
no, I mean I just want it to be what it is. I don't want to come in and negotiate as close as we can get to $150.
One person talk at a time.
Make it what it is. It's all done on the mythology, so you don't have one district paying different costs than the other because you're supposed to be fair and equal.
They aren't if you look at the bottom. One's paying $140.
Exactly. You're shooting for a number.
Never mind. I'm not talking anymore.
Please.
I'm done. I'm sorry. I get very frustrated when you ask for an answer and I try and you talk right over the top of me.
Okay, I'll listen.
No, but you don't. That's the problem, sir.
Chuck, we've been talking
Chuck
for
and Bart,
6 months.
Let's just talk. Let's
get
listen.
something done.
Because I want to hear what.
Okay, I won't say anything.
Please, we want you to talk, but let's let Bart talk, and then don't go away. Stay there, please. We want to hear what you have to say after Bart. Please.
I guess what I'm trying to say is we worked the right-hand side, okay, down to what you thought it should be, okay? As long as we agreed. If we didn't agree, we didn't change it, all right? The left-hand side, if you take a look, the 1120 for the lights, you were complaining about the stock. Now, the second report we're going to talk about, the 7188, was done a year ago. We can't make any changes to those if you want to sell any houses, okay? Because this has to be in place by the time you have your first entry. That's what council said. By the time you have your first move-in, okay? By the time you have your first occupancy, that's the correct words. So we cannot make a single change to 7188 at this point in time. If you look at the left-hand side, okay, and this will come up a year from now, and we can do what we need to do, all right? But the left-hand side, it's exactly what the lights should be, all right? There is some landscape there because councils never, or the planning commission, neither one is allowed, is said that you can, okay, that you can put the DG in. We've said that we agree, and when it comes up, we'll support that. But at this point in time, if there's a possibility that council and the planning commission tells you no, we have to have something in here to take care of that, all right? Now, I would admit that the administration fee is $1,600, but if you look there, again, I can't change anything on the right-hand side. I'm sorry, on the 7188, but the administration fee is $1,600. The part of that is the county administration fee. Part of it is the operational reserve. But if you come down and look at the very bottom, the assessment rate per EBU is $151 for one and $140 for the other. Okay, it's not that much different. Again, $11. So I that's what you're going to have to pay. So I don't understand what the problem is. The left-hand one can be adjusted once we have some idea what actual costs will be. So, and that we'll know maybe a year from now. Now, you're talking about the things not being taken care of. My fault. I take absolute responsibility. We tried to put out a contract to take care of all of them. A year ago, we got one bid that was incredibly high. All right, we said, then let's try it with our own people, working overtime on Fridays or weekends. We did some of that. It didn't work out so well. So we're going to we've rewritten the entire landscape contract to put out again. But to be perfectly honest, with all the things going on, I just haven't had a chance to get it out yet. So that, again, I'll take 100% responsibility when you say that the ones that are out there right now aren't being properly cared for. I agree. But my fault, all right? We'll do better. But for this right now, 7188, again, has to go forward, which is the second one. It's not the one we're talking about, and has to be passed. Okay, it's a public hearing that's coming up here next. But the current one, I'm sorry, 6908, we need to have, this right here, the only higher parts are ones for landscaping. If you look at the rest of them, they're fairly close as they move left and right across the page. And that's because you and I have sat down and worked hard to get this one about where it's supposed to be, except for the landscaping on the left-hand side. So I guess I'm that's where I stand at this point.
And council will, and the city manager all have to decide if they like that answer. I mean,
could you move up to the mic a little more?
Council and the city manager will have to decide if they like that answer. I think that this shows exactly what people fear. I mean, I understand your explanation, but why don't we just make it what it is? There's a mythology to this, and that's the reason why there is plant counts, and that's the reason why you have all this. And our engineer on the phone, he'll know that. And what we're doing is, and he basically said it, we got to get the number up to a certain amount. I mean, that's not what we should be doing. We should be getting the number where it needs to be to cover the lighting and the landscaping.
Mr. Rowland, this whole reason for this landscaping lighting district is so the city doesn't spend general fund money on what the citizens should be spending on for themselves. Now, this money cannot be diverted and spent on parks and recreation and police. This money is in there to pay for lights. It's in there to pay for, in this case, the care of the decomposed granite that you're going to put around your perimeter. It's there to take care of the administrative costs, because the only way we can collect this by the Constitution and California state law is through this process. This is a process that was set up by the citizens. If we don't do it this way, we don't collect it, then the citizens pay for it. The general fund pays for it. And I understand your frustration. I will say that the landscape maintenance, or at least the tree maintenance and the water irrigation, probably could be taken out, because we have agreed to allow you to put DG in there. I had spoken to Bart about it. We were looking at taking it out next year in the agreement, because you're not being charged for it this year. But in all frankness, we've been bending over backwards to assist you with your two developments for a significant amount of time. We've been making considerations for you considerably. And I understand that you're trying to make things work, and we want you to be able to build. I do agree there's maybe two things that can be removed, because we've allowed you to do DG. We haven't forced you to jump through all the hoops to have something that, when you purchase those tracks, you purchased it with the agreement that you would do it. You purchased those agreements when you bought them, knowing when you bought them that you had to put in irrigation and you had to put in plants. And we agree with you that it didn't really make much sense under Sigma to continue to put that landscaping in. So we made the decision not to have you do that. So we've been working extremely hard to help you with trying to control some of your costs.
Well, and I think when you say me, I think we should say us, because
Well, we are.
I mean, no, because and the reason being is if you drive by Walmart and you look at it, all the plants are dead. We've lost some expensive trees. So when you say you didn't make me, you guys don't want more maintenance. It was a correct decision for everybody to have compact. So you're not really necessarily doing me a favor. I think we came to a really good idea to conserve water and take down the maintenance. And so regardless, it would be, the assessment should be based off of actuals of what we've been discussing for months. I mean, when I met with Heather and she showed me the municipal code where we can actually do it, and then I printed up a plan with DG, and she took, and you know, that's when I thought it was done, and then I wait 2 months.
But you have to remember that the Planning Commission required you to put in landscaping and irrigation. Yes. And staff allowed them to put in DG because it makes sense. We agree. We need to save water where we can save water. We haven't had the ability to come back and have the general plan changed, and we know we're going to work back at it. I would agree with you. There's probably two things in here that I would probably recommend, and we were already discussing to take them out, would be the tree maintenance and the landscape irrigation. But I believe the two things that could be taken out based upon the decisions that we've made with you in negotiating your project. And if you notice on the right-hand column, we're not charging you for that. And I get a feel. I understand you have a slight sense of paranoia that somebody may come in and require you to put that in, but that's not the case.
Well, no, I'm not worried about somebody making me put the landscaping in. I'm worried about when you get these max assessments. I'm signed up to pay for this, and if we have base issues, I've watched some of my older peers go through some really tough times, and I shouldn't. First of all, if I'm going to have to come in and negotiate it yearly, I want it to be based off of what it should be to begin with. That's what's going to happen. We're going to have a negotiation, because if the same engineer's going to generate the proposed numbers, obviously we're not going to see it the same. The same engineer that generated these reports, if he's the one that's going to give you guys an annual report of what I should be being charged, obviously I'm not comfortable with that. So almost every year I'm going to have to come in and go, no, this is what it really costs. But really, if you sit around, anybody that wants to meet with me and actually add up what it's really going to cost. I mean, when I signed up for the 7188, it's because I needed to get my project going. I did it in good faith and just to get it to go away. But just take your $2,744 that Bart just said. There's nothing you can do to change it. Find out what we pay with LS1, and then ask yourself, why can't we not change it? Because it's not accurate. Why are we charging? Why would we charge that? What we should do then, if that's going to be the maximum assessment, we should figure out what that's going to cost. And then that should be changed every year to what it actually costs. And it's really not that hard. We shouldn't be trying to shoot for a $150 number. And I've done a lot of research on these districts. Almost every district that you come to, they all come up to about $150. You go to Valencia and look at some of these districts where you're paying $150. You got walking paths. You have actually something somebody might actually want, as far as extra taxes. This right here is I want to see the city go ahead and be able to recover their costs. I've made it clear. I'm not even trying. I never once have I ever asked the district to be removed.
I would like to know if that can be done. Can somebody explain to me why, if that could be done, that he's asking for, and what's the reason? Because I'm not understanding.
Right? Can we just say we want to scratch the tree maintenance and the irrigation, and that we want the landscape maintenance dollar amount to be comparable to that of the 7188? Is because the 7188 maximum for landscape maintenance is $280 versus the 6908 landscape maintenance maximum is $2,200 and $2,236. So, and 6908 is for 5,775 square feet of DG versus 7188 is for 7,400.
I would say if 7188 is that low, we're probably going to be paying out of the general fund to maintain it.
It's DG. I mean, Well, and I mean, to his point and what we've talked about before with the medians, we're not really maintaining them.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't fight the lighting part. That's a $1,500 overpriced, is because I kind of felt that the landscaping could have been higher, you know, and that you know, all this has been done in good faith. But then when I got this other report and realized that we're truly just trying to shoot a dollar amount, that's the part that it scares me from a city side, because this is the reason why, is because the mythology behind these are to make sure that you're fair to everybody. You shouldn't be just taking me in the office and see what I'll sign up for and negotiate with me. It should be what it is.
I would like my question answered. I'm sorry, Lindsay, I was asking that question and then you came in. Maybe you didn't hear me, but I'd like to.
Would you ask the question again, please?
Well, I was trying to understand why his logic was not what was appropriate for us to do, because I don't want this to come out of the general fund. And he was saying that if indeed we can look at that and explain the difference and understand, because even though we see this is the maximum, you aren't going to pay that every year until you get to that amount that's needed. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. The maximum allows us to increase it by 3.5% a year by law.
So if this is the maximum, but what you may actually be paying is less, because as you said, if you don't sell all those homes, you aren't going to be paying that. Is that correct?
No, I pay on the lots when I record.
Actually, not. Both of these are calculated for lots that are sold at a certain rate, and then the vacant land at a certain rate.
Excuse me.
So as he develops Part B or Phase 2, then those will start to be added in as well. But right now, I believe Phase B, Jim, help me here, but Phase B and C and Phase 2 for the other one are both as vacant land. Is that right?
Right, they are. Yes, but I need to interject here. When I said the numbers don't matter, what I was trying to make the point of is what the ballot is for the maximum assessment rate. That's what he's voting on. The budget numbers don't. How you get there doesn't make any difference. Now, that's all being misconstrued that I said that we were trying to hit a $152 target. That's not what I'm saying. So I want to make that real clear. These numbers are all calculated based on the square footage and what is reasonably supposed to be put in there for landscaping. I understand that, okay, yes, we can go back and take out the landscape and tree maintenance costs and the irrigation, back it all out, and come up with a lower assessment rate. But then I also have to go back in and change the methodology, because I can't allow the vacant land to be assessed at the rate it's being assessed at, because then I would have this year's assessment more than what the maximum assessment rate allows. So the methodology would have to change. It's not as simple as you make it all out to be. These numbers are all calculated. They all have a reason. The column to the right is showing what is proposed to be put in this year for maintenance and done. And it's based on the current development. So you still end up coming up with $151 for this year's assessment. That's not that far from the $152 maximum. So if you want to pull out from the maximum assessment budget all those landscape costs, we can certainly do that. That will lower the total dollar amount, and it's going to lower the assessment rate. But then I have to go back in and change how vacant land is being assessed, because this year you can't assess more than the maximum assessment rate, and so the methodology would have to change.
And why would we not want to do that?
Land would be.
I'm sorry.
Well, hang on just a minute, Jim. An easier way maybe to explain this is that the left-hand column, okay, I'm sorry people in the audience can't see this, but the maximum has to be higher than the proposed budget, okay? So the only time he said it doesn't matter, I just got to get to 152 is in that column. because it's got to be higher than the right-hand column. The reason it's working out this way is because there's only a few houses that are going to pay for all the stuff that has to be taken care of. As more houses come in, there will be more houses to take care of the general things that are done. Have I got that right so far, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, as more homes come up, the assessment, or more homes come online, if the budget doesn't increase, the assessment rates will actually go down.
Which is what he's trying to say. That's why the one on the left might seem a little high right now. And if we take out the landscape maintenance, the tree maintenance, et cetera, then we have to find another way to raise the left-hand column, because it has to be higher than the right-hand column. The right-hand column is what's going to pay for things over the next year. And right now, it's $151 per lot. There's not very many lots. Does that make sense? And then there's a fairly low rate for the stuff that's not developed. That's correct, isn't it, Mr. Rulin?
I didn't hear the last part of that.
What I said is the 151 is what's being charged to the homes that will probably be built this year. Okay, maybe phase one, but the rest of the open land is charged at a much lower rate.
I haven't seen the this year's report coming up. Is there a new report? I think the first year was $2,600 for phase A.
Actually, for 6908, it is
no 7188, because that's the only one we have that.
Well, that's because
recorded.
there was a negotiated rate of $2,500. Okay, that's what.
Well, no,
that's
I mean, but it has what was on there. Let me look. So 2526 was the actual budgeted amount, which, I mean, to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, if you look at if you look at the numbers, the budgeted amount, and you look at the annual lighting, $834. Okay, I have 3 lights in my phase one. If you look at what we pay LS1, and even if you calculate it for the whole year, even though I only have my lights up since March, but calculate it for the whole year, you're 3 times as much as what you actually paid SCE for the lighting. It's just a fact. I mean, these are things you can sit down and add. It's so easy to add up so what I'm saying is I get what you're saying, kind of, but the reality is you should be covering all your admin costs and things like that to keep the districts functioning. But you shouldn't arbitrarily be raising any costs. They should be actuals, everything else. But I mean, that's really all I got to say. You'll have to figure out what you know, whatever you decide you want to figure it out. I'm saying it should be exactly what it costs. Your admin should be what it is, and then if you've got your units per unit, and then you have the acreage, it should cover it. You shouldn't have arbitrary numbers to make compensations. I mean,
I guess if you want, I mean, you said the administration fee should be what it is. There's going to be a cost to Wildan, but there's also a cost to the city for the amount of time we spend. And if you add up the amount of, I mean, never mind. We spent a lot of time with you this last year working on this. And I guarantee you that most of it's not in there. So it won't be that way in the future unless you know you come to the yearly proposal but I'm hoping you come early if you have problems so we can spend time together. But with this here, the administrative costs are I mean, annual administration includes Wildan, it includes our time, and it costs the county's administrative fee. You know, that's $1,300 a year. You know, we spend time going over the reports thoroughly. We spend time in council chambers explaining it to council. There's a fair amount there. Plus, Wildan, you know, spends time updating these every year. They go through our costs of what we've spent, not just average costs. So
what would be the one that you would think would be accurate? The 2,636 or the 1,643? They're 7188 gets $2,636 of admin, and 6908 gets $1,643 annually on the max. That's what we should be talking about, the max.
Okay, I guess I'm really
It's
confused.
$1,000
'cause on the
difference.
right-hand side, I don't see a 26 anything
I'm
anywhere.
going off the maximum. I understand what
Okay.
you're saying. I've already
So-
agreed that we're going to have to come in every year, but we need to get the maximum set up correctly.
Right, but the
based off of
maximum for
mythology.
administration is 2471. You've added in the rehabilitation?
Well, whatever it is, I mean, you can take that. Okay, so 2,400 versus 1,643 for almost the identical districts. Which one would you say is correct? for
Okay, but
admin?
one is 1888 and one is 2471.
I've got one at 1643. Let me look.
The
either way-
1643, you're
either
right.
way,
160, okay.
Either way, which one
My
would you say
mistake.
is correct? One, 6 or 7, $800, $900 more than the other
Again,
one?
the 7188 was approved months ago, okay? We've been working on getting the numbers to be more realistic, and we cannot change 7188 because it's already been through council, all right? We're working to get them to be much more reasonable, all right? We've researched, we've worked with Jim to talk about what's really happening and not just a general set of numbers. So I'm guessing that the 1643 is much more reasonable, but I can't change the 2471.
So, but now we're on record when I come back next year, and if they have 20, if they ask for 2471, you'll be willing to say that it should actually be 1643 because that's what you just said.
If they're all 2471, then I'm going to say that's reasonable. If one is 2471 and one is, just let me just check. The operational reserves are part of this as well, and I can't say whether operational reserves will go up or down independently because they can, all right? But the other one should be approximately the same. The county fee should be about the same, and the district administration expenses should be about the same, okay? That much, it should be true. All right, but I can't tell you if it'll be 24 or 18 because it all depends on what it's going to cost. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's kind of why out of all the numbers, the one that there would be a variable would be the admin, and you got to throw a number at. So, and I understand that, and they should be similar. The methodology to figuring out what you're coming up with for two almost identical districts, whether they're done a year apart from one another, should be close in case somebody else has this problem. in the future.
Mr. Rulon, if you remember, you and I negotiated that, and I lowered the numbers considerably to help you out. And this was
They should just be what they are.
This was a year and a half later. Some of the numbers we probably agreed to on the maximum assessment on 7188 are probably not going to be high enough in the future.
Your landscaping's not, but your lighting and your admin and the fact that you're charging $8,000 to go around and twice a year and rake the DG, and the lights are going to cost $1,400.
We're not charging $8,000 a year.
Hang on a minute, Ron.
Whatever it is,
we
$7,000.
just talked. You can't look at the left-hand side for the new one because it has to add up to more than the right-hand side. All right? It has no choice but to do that. Otherwise, the right-hand side has to come down as well. So, did you understand the reason for that?
I understand it all. I think I've said enough. I don't think there should be negotiation, really. I think there should be a mythology, and it should be to pay for the landscape maintenance and pay for the lighting. It shouldn't be a money grab. You shouldn't be hitting a number. We can say what we want to say, but I mean, we've had results of what everybody else feels, and we talk about building trust. This right here, these sheets of paper right here, everybody can just make their own assessment, their own judgment. I mean, Ron and I did work out a number. Because why? Not because I wanted to, because I absolutely have to. I'm trying to build homes. I don't have a choice.
Chuck,
So-
I can guarantee you one thing, that under 7188 and 6908, the funds that are collected from those tracks go into a specific fund. In other words, we cannot commingle money between the two tracks. So every year the assessment's made of how much is the reserve, how much were the bills, how much we anticipate the bills will be the following year, and then the right-hand column is set. That's the methodology. That's not going to be something where we're going to build $100,000 in there and spend it on something else. Each one of these tracks is trackable. That money can only be spent on that district. Every year we have our reserve balance on each one of these funds that we have that you can look at. If we have too much in reserves, that number on the right-hand column can go to zero for that year. The point being is that we have to have the number on the left column high enough to anticipate that any sort of growth or any sort of issues that happen in that track that are covered under landscaping maintenance district have the funding to be paid for. If we don't set that number right on the left-hand side, then there's a lot of communities out there that cut themselves short that are paying general fund money on landscaping lighting districts because they didn't set them up with, let's say, the 3% escalators over time to keep up with inflation. And they're having to go back and then go back to the community to do the 218 hearing again. So all this is trackable. This isn't a money grab. This is getting the funding to be able to take care of the obligations that are in that track. And that would be landscape maintenance, and that would be lighting.
I agree.
They can't go any higher. And I understand your concern. And as you know, we've had a lot of conversations about trying to make sure we take care of the developers, and we've bent a lot over the last couple of years. And I understand your frustration on this because part of it, it's difficult to understand. It'd be nice to have a complete district throughout the entire city. It would make it easier because it'd be one report and one admin fee, but that's not where we're at. But the issue is that we can't just not do these because if we don't, then it's a hit to the
I've
general
never
fund
asked
every
for
year.
this to be removed.
I know.
But we can sit down, so we've all said we can sit, we can go over coffee, find out, in my opinion, Bart should know what we're paying for LS1. He should know that. Is it a fixed cost? He should know everything about LS1. You should know if it's $9 or $12. So find out what we pay for LS1. Let's go figure out what the street costs are. Let's get 3 bids. I can get us 3 landscaping bids on the DG in less than 24 hours by licensed and insured contractors. So if we're going to work, let's just work on getting real numbers.
Right, but the numbers you get won't be at prevailing wage, sir.
And I'll get prevailing wage. I'll get prevailing wage numbers.
The point being that the amount of actual charges for landscaping on both of these are 111 and 447. And the newer track is larger, okay? And we thought that there probably would be more maintenance to keep the weeds down, et cetera. That's what you're actually paying for landscaping. And I don't understand how you could argue that 447 is too much or that the 111 is too much.
I haven't even got to the point of arguing that 447 is too much, although I would because I'm going to be the one out there maintaining it. I'm talking about what I'm talking about specifically right now is the maximum. It should be accurate based off of mythology. I've said that. That's what it should be. That way you guys, everybody can explain
And Jim
what
has
they're
said
doing.
that they use a very specific methodology. But now, again, 7188 is locked in. All right, there's not anything we can do about that. All right.
That's sad. To
I'm
be
sorry?
honest with you, I mean it is because they're not right. But that I mean I'm not 6908. I've stopped construction on it, and we have been working, but I mean I've been trying to work this landscape lighting district for literally 3 months, honestly, and I've gone out of my way to have meetings, and all I'm asking is that the numbers are actually accurate and correct, and not just from my standpoint. We as a city, we're going to need money. If we're out of money, we have to start building trust. You want to have, when you're asking for money, you want it to be accurate. I mean, you don't want to. In my opinion, if we're going to need tax money. We got to earn trust by actually being. You can tell me all day long. All of us up here are smart enough to know. You can look at the one page that I typed up, and you're going to be driving home in your own car tonight, going, "Wow." And Jim should understand that too. But we'll continue to work. But I think I'm just asking for it to be correct. I'm not asking for it to be eliminated. Just make it correct, and I'm ready to sign it and move forward. My argument is going to be the same for 7188, and I'm not even going to come back up and
to correct it. You want to see the tree maintenance scrapped and the irrigation scrapped and then the landscape maintenance number lowered? Would
I don't
that-
think the landscape maintenance number needs to be $243 because I agree with you that it's not correct. It probably needs to be higher.
What? So
maybe
that's what I'm trying to get to is
well,
what
what we need to do is we need to sit down and have real discussions with what we actually think it is. We should probably send that out to somebody, to a couple companies to bid on what they will charge to come and do that. I mean, I would say that $243 number, they're going to come twice a year, and it needs to be closer to whatever, $700 a year. But we would have to figure it out. It's all based on square footages, but I'm not saying that I know on my side, just like I expect you guys to understand on the other side, that $245 is not enough to cover 7/1/8 maintenance if they're actually going to do it. So I haven't not been willing to negotiate. I want to actually do some real negotiation and come up with real numbers. So when I'm telling my customers that they're going to be taxed extra, but here's why. I can't give these to my customers and explain it to them.
Yeah. Chuck, you were in the landscape maintenance business. Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead, Jim.
I'd like to make one comment. I think that both sides have presented beautifully and very thoroughly. I'm very impressed. And if you don't even have the visual stimulation but just the audio, both sides have done a terrific job. I'm left confused with one thing. We've said both sides have admitted that we have met multiple times, and Chuck, you have stated that and been thankful, and the city has expressed that they have, in their opinion, really gone out of their way to spend much extra time. I think we have concurrence on that. I guess where I'm confused here, and maybe someone can shed some light, is that if we have met and really made concessions and really tried to address this to the satisfaction of all, why are we here tonight spending an hour before City Council when, in fact, apparently, now we're talking about sending out more things, about having more coffee sessions, of getting more bids? I guess this part I'm in the dark. I would think that before it comes back to council, and I'm not addressing this either at staff or at you, Mr. Rowland, but I'm just wondering why we don't have all the information we need at this meeting to make a decision.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Chuck, you have to understand, you're in the landscape maintenance business, so was I. I've seen landscapers that charge a pretty penny, and I've seen some that are fair. It just depends. Now, you say you can get 3 bids to maintain whatever. Those bids can go wildly from one direction to the other. When we put out the bids for Walmart, we got back some extremely high bids that were way above what our budget was. So we're going to have to figure out a way of how to get those numbers down. So when you look at that maintenance number, I look at that number as that it depends. When contractors are extremely busy, and you know this as well as I do, they put out extremely high bids because if you want the work, you'll pay for it. And there's times when they're hungry and they'll come in with a lower price. So I'm not so much worried about the maintenance number being on the side because that can change, as you well know. So what happens is there's a reality that we experience as we go through this of when we put this out to bid, what it's going to be. What do we do if we pick a number today and we say this is your number, and we set that number, and all of a sudden it turns out that, oh, by the way, things get pretty hot in town and the prices go up. I've been here 34 years, and I think all of us have experienced that. So what happens is that number is where it needs to be, and then based upon the experience, we adjust the number on the right-hand side of the column. Because if we set that number on the left-hand side inaccurately, then we make up the difference. And that's the problem.
I hear what you're saying.
I mean, we're both philosophically on the same page, and I understand your concern on the left-hand column, but that left-hand column number has to be high enough that if things go up high enough, we can collect the money to pay the bills. All this money that's collected for these districts stay in that district. If If it turns out that it doesn't cost as much, well, the next year we can lower that amount. We're not, these can't be slush funds that the city can use for other purposes. It just doesn't happen. So I understand your concern, but I think you're not understanding. You're right. The lights may be set, and PUC may allow them to jump up $2 a light, but the landscaping is a wild card. And I know that because I used to be in the business, and so do you.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But you know, I mean, I've said what I got to say.
If I could reiterate what I think Ms. Stevens was trying to get to here, and that is, is it possible to get to yes tonight? So here's the question. Chuck, is there some part of this where right tonight we could have some sort of an agreement to take some of those things out, for you possibly adjust the other numbers so we get to yes without having to go back and back and back and back?
I mean, if we could come to an agreement, I think if we back the landscape maintenance out and throw a reasonable number at the landscape maintenance, even if you throw $1,000 at it, that's a reasonable amount of money for somebody to come and do that front part of that of Drummond once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, whatever it is. To, you know, I know because I've maintained it for a year. I've done my own maintenance on mine. I've been out there one time cleaning weeds in the year that I've owned it in less square footage. So, I mean, we can come up and say, we can say whatever we want to say, but I've actually maintained 7188 for a year, and I had 3 guys out there for 1 day, and then I had 2 guys out there for 1 day. And they weren't even there for a full day. That's what it takes to maintain that.
So where are we going here?
Can I make a comment real quick? The only problem is with what Councilperson Martin has suggested is that if we back numbers out of the landscaping and stuff on the left-hand column of 6908, then they must either be raised somewhere else or the right-hand column has got to be lowered. And Mr. Rulon has not complained about anything, I don't believe, in the right-hand column. And that becomes a problem because the left-hand column must be greater than the right-hand column.
If we take out the tree maintenance and the landscape irrigation, just like it's not even a line item on 7188 because, you know, it's 0 in the right-hand column. If we make it 0 in the left-hand column, but what I was getting at is if you take out the $177 for tree maintenance and the $930 for landscape irrigation, which neither one of those are going to exist in his development, that drops the total balloted amount down to $5,733 for the maximum. And on 7188, your maximum balance is $5,927.
Hey, Jim, if we make those adjustments, how does it affect the overall budget, in your opinion?
Well, the problem is the calculation on the left-hand side is right now it's based on this 6801 divided by 45 units, which gives you the $152 per benefit unit. You drop out $1,000 out of that. Now we've dropped it down to 55. Divide that by 45 units. Now the assessment rate's down to 140 or something.
No, it's Jim, it's 126.53.
Okay, so it's 126.53. Then again, I go back to what I had said before. Then I have to change the methodology in the report because I can't assess him $151 per benefit unit for this first fiscal year. It's over the maximum. I have to change how vacant land is assessed, which is not consistent with how we've got it set up in the other districts.
I mean, I think if it's wrong, it needs to be fixed. I mean, and he's paid money to have it be fixed, and it hasn't been fixed. So,
it has been fixed. It's based on what the Planning Commission approved. Landscaping is still required, so we budgeted accordingly.
But
Plus, we spent a lot of time on the right-hand column as well. So,
I'm sorry. It's frustrating because I understand why he's frustrated. Because all I hear is you want to make sure you get this dollar amount, and it's not correct. And so I have to question your methodology in general. And how do you even come up with these numbers? Because they're all over the place. I mean, it's like
they're not. They're calculated based on the square footage, and it was based on landscaping.
The square footage of 7188 is
the left side.
The square footage of 7188 is more than the square footage of 6908.
Again, you're going back to a report that was done beforehand. We changed the numbers in calculation of square footages. They're not comparable. The lighting costs have been adjusted since we did that original report.
But I'm sorry. I go back to a few months ago when we had to approve those tracks over there by Walmart. And those ones had artificially been made too high. And we ended up having to zero it out because we had charged people too much money. So we've demonstrated that these numbers aren't always accurately calculated.
I don't understand. I missed that part.
On the districts that we just approved over by Walmart, we had two couples come in that we had to change their parcels. And so...
Well, we didn't change. We just changed the right column.
And you made an adjustment to that. You made a concession. It wasn't that they weren't calculated correctly.
They had been charged incorrectly because we ended up having to give them money.
No, they weren't. That was a council decision to give them a concession for the fact that they're vacant land.
I think I would have to differ with Jim. I think I'd have to differ with that because wasn't there an original fee that they were charged when the lighting and landscape district was first formed, and then subsequently one of the property owners said, "Hey, I'm not in agreement with this fee," and so then it was lowered without council consent. And so then we spoke about it at that meeting, and at that meeting then we agreed that difference between the $4,500, I believe it was, don't quote me on these numbers because I'm going off the top of my head, down to the amount that it was lowered, that difference was what they had been overcharged and that they should be given that money back along with interest because they had been overcharged. But the council wasn't in on that initial part. But we did agree that night to a mutual agreed position on what we were going to charge them until that land was fully developed, and then it would go up. So,
right, but the maximum assessment was calculated off of fully developed property.
Right. So I'm just saying that
there was an error in the first fiscal year.
So I think we're clear on what was done there that night, but how that compares to tonight is, I think, what Councilman Stevens is asking.
This column should have never had trees and irrigation in it. That's the reality. Is when this report was done, trees and irrigation should have never been in this report because from the beginning, from when this report has been made, we've known he's going to use DG.
And so this was agreed upon between the parties.
And that's why 7188, when that report was done on 7188, it doesn't have those on there. And it was done even before the 6908 report was done. So that's why it's confusing to me why those are ever included in 6908, because we know he's not putting in irrigation and trees. So you're going to say it's going to cause you to do more work when it was done incorrectly from the beginning. I'm sorry. It was.
It wasn't done incorrectly. Let's step back. This district, even this one, 6908, was being done last year. I was paid an extra $1,500 to make modifications to address for this year's assessment. when we first did this particular district back in 2018 and did the engineer's report, this was based on this development still having landscaping. It wasn't like the other one where you'd already made the concession to remove the landscaping and just have DG. This one I was directed by staff to move forward with it just as though it was going to be landscape. That's what this budget was developed on. And I'm totally fine with taking it out now that you've come to the point where you're not going to make him have landscaping, although the Planning Commission still made it a condition of his development. If council wants to back that out, I'm more than happy to back that out. But the same thing, like I said, then we have to change the methodology for this year because I can't assess vacant land the way it's being assessed. Otherwise, there's not going to be enough money.
Okay. Are you okay with him waiting to change the methodology?
Yeah, I'd like to get...
Is that going to cost him additional money?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when he paid you the $1,500 to update it, shouldn't it have been done then?
We knew then that we were all doing DG.
DG.
That was the reason why we paid it. I just wanted to get it to go away.
That was my understanding as well. So I don't think that was the reason why the $1,500 was paid, was because the DG had been put in. What did you fix when he paid $1,500 then?
We lowered the lighting down to what it is calculated at per LS1, and then I think admin, a couple numbers were moved down to again hit, I guess, what I would be willing to agree to, which, I mean, I guess if that's how we're going to negotiate it, then we should sit down and actually have that type of negotiation, but we have never gotten to that point. I've just been told it's for hyperinflation, all kinds of stuff. We've never really actually been able to have a real conversation. I've told that to a few people, and I've been willing to work. That's why I haven't said anything to anybody. I've been trying to get this thing handled. I got, on 7188, I got backed in the corner that night. Peggy was there, and we were trying to get this thing done, literally an hour before council meeting, when I'd been trying to set up meetings for 2 and 3 months. You were there for that meeting, and you were actually you heard the words and the verbiage and the frustration of, and all I was doing is asking the same questions I'm asking now, and they were just based on real numbers. So out of fairness and working with Ron, I agreed to sign up for this. I still don't agree with 7188, but whatever. I mean, got it behind us. But I think the number I think we're just going back and forth. I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to wait to provide my customers, which are essentially taxpayers, a real assessment of what they need to pay to cover what we're going to be putting in there.
Can we put a timeline on this? And if it's not going to cost you any great amount of money, but can we say that we're going to all work together to expedite this and put this back on the agenda in 2 weeks or 4 weeks? And then take a vote and be done when there's no more research to be done on this?
My main comment on this is going to be this, then, and I guess it needs to be my last comment. If you take out the stuff we're talking about taking out, it lowers the number to $126 for maximum, all right? The right-hand column states that we need $151 to cover this year. If council wants to fund the rest of it out of the general fund, then fine. Otherwise, the numbers on the left-hand side will have to increase elsewhere to get back to above $151. Now, I'm absolutely not arguing that the $152 may be...
Bart, hold on.
Okay.
Chuck, didn't you say you'd increase the other to whatever, 1,000 or whatever? Does that make your columns work, Bart? Yes or no?
It does not. In fact, that actually lowers it further. So, I mean, and if we increase the right-hand side, the costs, to mirror what Chuck had said about the landscaping, then that's going to raise that even higher on the right-hand side, which means the left-hand side even has to be higher.
How come in the 2019, so you're saying no number in the 2019 column can be higher than the maximum number, and operational reserves is $246 in the maximum column, and in the 2019-2020
No, that's not
it's
what
$260.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you look at the bottom assessment rate per EBU, the left-hand column has to be higher than the right-hand column. That is all I said.
Well, then why are the total parcels in one column 3 and 19? I mean, and then 45 and 19. Why can't you just?
If Jim, I'll let you explain why it's 3, 19, 45, 19.03, please.
Okay, because the ones on the left-hand side, there are currently 3 parcels that make up this tract, and they will be 45 residential units. That's why it's 3, 3, and 45. The right-hand side is based on what's anticipated for this year, that they're going to subdivide 13, there are going to be 13 residential lots and then 2 remainder lots to make up, or is it 13?
19.
Well, whatever it is. Yeah, we're going to end up having 19 lots this fiscal year. They're just not there yet. And because part of the property is vacant, they get weighted less for vacant land. We're assessing the residential lots, the subdivided residential lots at 1 per benefit unit, but the vacant lot is, I forget the calculation now, but significantly less. So you only end up with 19.03 benefit units. The 45 is divided into the 6,800 balance to levy to get the 152. The 19.03 is divided into the 287.3 balance to levy to come up with the 151. So if you lower again, I go back to what I had said at the very beginning. Bottom line is the assessment rate, the $152 is the maximum assessment rate that's being balloted. That's what he's voting on. He's not voting on the budget. How those costs could change from year to year. There may be more put to lighting, less to landscaping, more to landscaping. Those numbers will change from year to year. But bottom line, you can't exceed the maximum assessment. So the 152 assessment rate per EBU, that's the number that was calculated by this and come up with that. So if we back out pre-maintenance landscaping from the maximum budget, it's going to reduce that 152 down to 126. That means the other side, for this first fiscal year, we either have to reduce those numbers below what it's actually going to cost or change the methodology so we're no longer assessing the vacant land at a lesser amount. They got to be assessed more, which means the developer has to pay that because he's the one that owns the vacant land. He'll actually be paying more.
It doesn't make sense that he would end up paying.
Does that explain it?
It doesn't actually make sense that he would be paying more because the dollar amount that you're still trying to get to is $28.73. So in the end, $28.73 is the amount that needs to be paid. And so it's like because you're changing the EBUs.
But presumably he's going to sell 13 of those lots that he's no longer going to be paying for. He personally still has to pay for the vacant land because he still owns it. So if I raise the amount that vacant land pays, he personally will actually pay more.
Again,
now if he doesn't sell any houses, he's paying the whole thing. But
I mean, it's just a. He's telling me right now that we're still shooting for just the number. We're not shooting to actually cover what the costs are.
No,
I mean,
he's saying no. We are.
I understand what he's saying.
We're shooting to cover the cost of $28.73.
Well, that's going to be the first year because as in 28, so 28.70. I get what he's saying. I understand exactly what he's saying, and we're talking about that's for the rest of this fiscal year. The cost, other than the fact that we're here right now for an hour and we've spent so much time on it, but the real cost is going to be the report. I mean, for this year, if we're going to really talk about real costs, is going to be the report that we get from Wildan, because there's not going to be no maintenance. I mean, it's already July, and I'm going to have 3 streetlights for probably a month. So the real cost there is none, other than the report and admin, Bard's time, and everybody's time. So we're not talking about taking a lot of money from the general fund. I mean, again, I just think that this whole thing should be based off of what it is. And then you don't try to come up with a number on the right column to match the left. The left should be what it is, and then you base the percentages on the right for what it is, which means if your admin's correct, you might have to bill 100% of the admin. And your lighting, if you're not going to have any lighting, then you wouldn't need to have that on there. But I get what he's saying. You want to cover your initial cost for the first year. But another thing to keep in mind, I mean, we have $80,000 in reserves in one of the districts. I mean, when you get these things off the ground, they might take a little bit. But for the long haul, it's supposed to be, and if it's done right, and can you go back in future years and use reserves to pay for what you would have lost? And not that you're going to lose any money. I mean, I don't know how much the report's going to be, but you're going to have basically the report that they charge $1,000 for is what I heard, but I don't know what it is, and staff's time to present it. You got $2,800 in here. If it gets lowered down to $2,300, you still got plenty of money to cover actual costs if we're talking about what it's actually going to cost.
So what happens? So this first column, if you build those houses and you don't sell the ones that you build, then your vacant land you would keep vacant. So if we raise the vacant land price on you to make this, because the $151, the $2,873 is what this first budget year column is, which I think you've worked on with them to say that you think that is reasonable.
So, well, and if you don't think that that's going to cover your costs, instead of redoing all the assessments of all the land and stuff, if we actually sit down and have a fair meeting, that $2,873 is not going to cover the actual cost of the next 3 months, then I'd be willing to pay. I can write a check to the city.
Well, this is for fiscal year, so we're talking about July, this July to July of 2020.
Okay.
So we're not talking about 3 months. We're talking about a full year.
So, I mean, if we sat down in order to have this correct for everybody's peace of mind and base this left-hand number off of real, actual numbers that can last forever, and we decided that this right-hand...
The problem is, here's the problem, Chuck. Let me try and because I think the lingos are different and we're not understanding each other. So the $2,873, that's the amount for this 12 months. The problem is that for this 12 months, there's only 19 EBUs to distribute that $2,800 amount across. So if you take 2,800 divided by 19, that gives you the 151, okay? What they're saying is then the problem is if we remove the 177 for tree maintenance and the 930 for the landscape irrigation, like we think we should, when you go down, that reduces the balance to levy to $5,733. But what has happened in this maximum column is you're fully built out. So you now have 45 EBUs instead of 19. So 5,733 divided by 45 only ends up being $127, and the maximum EBU rate per EBU of 127 is lower than the budget, the 1920 budget. And that's the problem, is the maximum column can't be higher than the 1920. So it sounds like what he's saying is in order to cover that $2,800 amount, he's going to have to change how much he charges the vacant land EBU, like rates, which you pay.
Sorry.
So you would end up having to pay more on your vacant land to cover it. But in the end, what you're asking for would be accomplished, that the maximum column would be lowered. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. The vacant land part would be charged, so we need to get.
But because we're changing the EBUs, it drastically changes, and I don't know if that's the only way that methodology is done, because it seems like it shouldn't be. It's almost like you should have a landscape lighting district for the subdivision. Like if he's only doing part of his subdivision, it shouldn't be the. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say is because we're changing the number of houses that get developed on it, it's affecting how it's divided.
Correct. As we get more tracks into the landscaping lighting district, the actual admin cost goes down because you have economy of scale. So as we continue to add tracks to this, the admin cost goes down. Because what happens is it folds in, you have each individual reports, but it eventually folds into one report per year. And so by adding these to the district, it becomes one admin fee that then spread based upon all of the districts we have in town. So the more we do, the cheaper the admin gets. And at the end of the day, that left-hand column is what the maximum amount we think this will cost in worst-case scenario. It's we hope it's a whole lot cheaper, but that number on left-hand column is if everything's built out, it's built out completely, it's the 151 per home developed. To change the numbers, one of the things we've been trying to work on, Chuck, is to try and keep the vacant land assessments down lower in an event that you don't build everything out.
I mean, I fully understand.
In a perfect world, the whole town would be a landscape maintenance, and it would all be folded in, and you would already be paying a fee on your vacant land, and the only thing that would happen is that when it was built, it would just go up to the amount of a built home.
And the reality is, though, is when this thing's fully built out, the citizens that are in there are going to be paying $6,800.
They're not going to pay $6,800 if the amount doesn't cover it.
They're going to have to come in here every year because I've seen the other districts. I mean, I'm just being honest. I've watched them, and some when there is nobody up here, they get passed. You can go look at. But not all of them.
But if you look, Chuck, I mean, we can sit down at a later date and we can have
exactly.
we can have Sri print out, because each one of these tracks has a holding account, and that money can only be spent on that track, and we can go and show you exactly what's in those holding accounts and what's been spent. Now, I would say probably for Walmart, it's probably a little bit more in there because we haven't had a contract, so more like.
Well, except that we had.
Well, we're paying city folks. So the ultimate goal of these things is to have the left-hand column big enough to cover what we think would be the maximum amount that would ever happen.
I agree.
And hope that we get it in less. One of the things, we could have awarded a contract and went into negative on the Walmart end of things. We chose not to. Now, maybe that wasn't a good decision. Maybe we should have went to the general fund and then got paid back as time went by. But we're trying to find a better way of making that happen. If we don't ask for enough money up front and those landscaping costs come in high, then we end up having to pay for it out of the general fund. And so we want that number on the left-hand side to be robust enough that if the costs for the maintenance contracts come in, that we can cover it. And if we can get it in less, then obviously that amount would be less. And maybe we just need to post every year in our budget, and I don't mind doing it, what our balances are on the districts. Because that will put your mind at ease, because we have to keep track of how this money's spent. This isn't a slush fund for the city.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I've followed the districts and I've watched the maintenance that's been done on them, and so, that I don't want to carry on the conversation longer than it needs to be.
So do you want us to delay?
Yeah, I want to delay this until
you want to delay this until you guys can meet? Okay.
Yeah, until I can actually, because I've got all the information and understand it, but I still think it should just be based off of real numbers, so I can explain it to my customers.
I tend to agree with that, Chuck, but I also tend to agree, that my position hadn't changed from 10, 15 minutes ago, Both sides have done a beautiful job, very maturely, very thoughtfully, very statistically. Bravo. But where we are is that I think nobody here wants to vote. Look, we're trying to help the developers. The city council was sent a very definitive and strong message, if everyone will remember, several months ago. I, for one, listened, and I think we all listened. We are trying to help the developers and small businesses to the best of our ability. Number two, we have direct guidance, instruction, and motivation from the base concerning new hires that we have a major housing problem. So I'm not forgetting that big umbrella that is over all of this as well. So I'm a little uneasy about voting just being put into a position to vote right this minute when, to be truthful, we're not taking a vote, but I'm hedging more towards your argument, Mr. Rulon, but by virtue of the two things I just said, not necessarily statistics, because I think what Bard and Ron has presented is spot on as well, and the other gentleman on the phone. I don't want to see this thing go on and on and on. And if my goal is to try to expedite and let's make something happen. Can we do this in a month or something? What right now, can we set some kind of a timeline where it comes back for a quick 15-minute discussion and a vote?
Can I get a word in, please?
What did he say? Mike, what did you say?
He wants to talk.
Can I get a word in, please?
Yes. He wants to talk.
Ron, if we postpone this a month, doesn't this have to be on the tax rules on a certain point?
We'd have to hand bill it. But we'd also, until this is approved, we can't finalize this track map either.
Well, and actually, from what I'm hearing, even if we play with these numbers, it's going to end up costing Chuck more because we're going to have to raise the vacant lots price. So he's really better off financially if we approve this now. Right?
It was hard to understand that
Yeah,
last
I can't
statement.
understand that.
Sorry, it was jumbled.
I think he said that it's to Mr. Rulon's advantage. Hang on. I think this is just me paraphrasing. I think he said that it's to Mr. Rulon's advantage to approve this now because otherwise the cost will be higher for him. I think that's what you said, isn't it, Councilperson Maurer?
That is exactly what I said.
Yeah, and this is Councilman Heyman, Mike. I agree. And I think that as long as the bottom line for me is that we don't tap into the general fund and cost taxpayer dollars for this whole, operation. So, that's the first thing for me is we can't dip into that. So it's got to be above and beyond that. If it's meeting both those, areas, then I'd say let's get it done.
We've talked about this for over an hour. We've gone around the circle 4 times. We've been talking about this for an hour, and we can talk about it for 3 more hours. Well, I can't because it's 11 o'clock here. I'm ready to make a motion personally.
Well, I just want to say, though, that it's still our taxpayers that are going to end up paying this. So, we need to make sure that we're doing
They're only going to pay what it costs. They're not going to pay the left-hand column until it gets up to that cost. So they're only going to pay the actual cost. And we've seen several tracts that we've approved this past year that the right-hand column was much less than the maximum. We haven't charged the maximum on subdivisions.
So did Mike make a motion? Is that what I understood?
Can I make one comment before we get a second? Please remember that even if council approves, if Mr. Rulon votes no on the ballot, it has no effect.
But if Mr. Rulon doesn't approve the ballot, he can't finalize his track map.
That's true as well.
Correct.
So, I guess, so we're saying there's still...
Go ahead, Mike.
I said it's going to cost Mr. Rulon more money if we change this. Plus, then we're going to have to hand bill him. So, if Mr. Rulon wants to pay more money for the vacant lots, then fine. Let's postpone it a month change that around, then he pays more money and everybody's happy.
Do we have an idea of the dollar amounts that we're talking about? Because, I mean, even though we're saying it's going to cost him more money, I mean, it still could cost him more money by proceeding forward with it. So how much does hand billing cost versus, and how much does delaying?
Well, at the end of the day, the left-hand column is what we believe the maximum amount could be if the track is completely developed.
The left-hand column at the end of the day is wrong, because it has tree maintenance and irrigation in it, and those should not be included. So stop saying that's the correct column and the maximum, because it's not.
But that money's going to have to be made up somewhere else, Lindsay. That money's going to have to be made up somewhere else.
So I mean, the answer is honestly, we have to shoot for a number. I agree with Mike. We're shooting for a number. I'm agreeing with Mike. I agree with Lindsay. So we're going to arbitrarily go. We've already established a number, and because these numbers on the left are incorrect, we all know they're incorrect. We're going to go change it. That's fine. Every year I can come up here and go, okay, we didn't do any landscape maintenance, and I can fight this thing until I don't own the track no more. And then at that point, I've done my work. I don't need to hold my track up any further. If you guys as council members feel good about, you're okay with passing this the way it is, it's fine with me. If everybody in here is fine, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to sell my or I'll be able to come in every single year and go, no, these are incorrect, or whatever ends up happening. But in order to make this go through, it's the same reason why I agreed to the 7188. You don't have a choice. So, I guess my answer would be do what you guys got to do. Here's the numbers.
Wait a minute. Who was that just speaking?
That was me. I said the real numbers you're paying are the right-hand column, not the left-hand column. If we have figures for tree maintenance, landscape irrigation, and nothing is ever done there, that right-hand column is going to stay zero. Right?
That is right.
Correct.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. So if that, and I'll continue to do that at least while I own it. I agree with you again, Mike. Yes, we could come in and so and again, we're shooting for a number to probably cover the first year's costs or whatever it is, but you guys got to do what you got to do. I just got to, if that's the answer, then let's move forward.
I agree. All right. Is there any other discussion? Okay. Well, that's what I was asking, sir.
I love Dave. I was worried when you called me and said you hadn't heard from him. I'm like, oh, shit,
Can we actually table this till the next meeting?
No, that's
No,
what we just
no.
said, is because if we table it, it will cost Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Rowland more money because it will have to be hand billed.
Well, I guess there's,
We've backed him into a corner.
but there was something that the city manager said a while back that kind of piqued my interest. These lighting and landscaping districts, are they part of a state mandate or constitution or something? Where did these come from?
It is a way for the city not to spend general fund money on items that benefit certain neighborhoods, such as streetlights that are not at the intersections, that are not for public safety, as well as for landscaping around the tracks. If you go into some communities throughout the state, they have very robust landscaping lighting districts that are far greater than ours, and they have a lot more maintenance and a lot more stuff that goes with it. We were very meager. For whatever reason, our founding fathers came very late to the game in establishing this cost. So right now, I think the citizens of Ridgecrest are supplementing our streetlights by about $230,000 a year, which in most normal communities are not done.
Well, what would constitute not having these benefits? I mean, the guy goes in and develops a track. He's got to put the street lights in, right? I'm confused as to why in the hell these districts are in existence in the first place. And I think there's a better way we ought to be able to, and I challenge people to start thinking about that. What else can we do that would be different and easier? This is too damn much money. I mean, too much effort. Thank you.
Okay, there's no more discussion. Then is there a motion?
He already made one.
I move approval.
Oh, Mike did. Okay. Was there a second? I'll second it. Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
No.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
No.
We have 3 ayes, 2 noes, motion carries.
Okay. So do we have to have a public hearing then?
There were actually 2 resolutions
No,
on
right.
that one.
There are 2 resolutions.
So we need to do the next resolution. The first one was for initiating proceedings, and the second one is for accepting and filing the report and declaring the intention. So we need another motion and a second and then a vote.
So moved.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Can I ask one question, or am I too late?
No, go ahead.
If we vote no on this, I think I've been told 5 times that he cannot sell houses.
You can't what?
He can't even process his map at
That
this
is-
point.
that is
I
correct.
didn't hear you.
He can't process his map either. Sorry.
Well, I can't imagine Mr. Rowland wants that. So I just want to make sure I know what I'm voting on here.
Okay, so I had a first by Mr. Mauer and a second by Mr. Heyman. Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
No.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
We have 4 ayes, 1 no, motion carries.
Okay.
That was for both of the resolutions then, for the 2 votes?
We did 2 votes, yes.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we are on to the next item. And Bard, you have that?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. It got kind of messed around when we were
I
discussing
understand.
both at the same time.
I'll read it out loud so the people listening. Public hearing to take the final steps to complete the formation of District 2018-2 and the concurrent annexation process for annexation 2018-2.
So,
Okay.
This item is a public hearing, so you need to open the public hearing, please.
I will do so.
Okay. At that point, we take testimony from the public about the creation of this district.
Is there any public who would like to speak on this district? Okay.
At that point in time, you direct the clerk to open the ballot.
Would you open the ballot, please? I guess you could have said that. Yep.
It says the mayor. I'm sorry.
We have 1 ballot, and it's a vote in favor of. The vote is yes. And the total parcel assessment value is $5,960. Proposed assessment for fiscal year 1920 was $2,500.46. The vote was yes.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing.
Do we need to take public comment?
At this point in time, council now needs to approve 2 resolutions, right? I'm sorry, this is,
Okay,
2 resolutions. The first one would be declaring the results of the property owner's protest ballot proceedings conducted from the levy related to the formation of the landscape and lighting district 2018-2 and the concurrent annexation to the Ridgecrest Landscaping and Lighting District number 2012-1 as Zone 05 commencing in fiscal year 1920 and approving certain related actions. So you list here at the bottom the total ballots cast, the total of yeses and the dollar amount, and the total of noes and dollar amount in the resolution. So the above recital is true and correct. This is what you're resolving. The protest proceedings were conducted. The tabulation and canvass of property owner protest ballots were conducted. The city clerk was directed to enter this resolution in the minutes once you approve or disapprove.
So it requires a resolution vote?
It does.
Yes, we have two resolutions that need to be passed for this.
I haven't mentioned the second one. Would you like me to read the second one?
No, one at a time.
Wait.
She was just asking if there was two. So the first one is to declare the results of the property owner ballot. And
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Results?
Go ahead.
No, you didn't say 5 ayes.
Oh, I'm sorry. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, you were right. Okay.
So a resolution, the second resolution is the resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest, California, confirming the formation of the Lighting and Landscape District at 18-2, 2018 current annexation, consolidation of parcels within the district to the Ridgecrest Landscaping Lighting District 2012-1 as Zone 5. The diagram and assessments related thereof, overruling all protests concerning the assessment, ordering the levy and collection of assessments commencing in fiscal year 1920.
Okay, is there a motion?
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay,
Before we move on to the next item, can I make a comment, please?
please.
I want to apologize to both the council and to Mr. Rulon for expressing my frustration at one point during this discussion. I'm terribly sorry.
Well, we accept it on behalf of the council, and I think there's been frustration on everybody's part.
No, but
I
it,
appreciate that,
yeah.
Board. Just want to let you know, if I did the same, I apologize as well.
Okay.
Thank you both. Thank you. Okay, committee reports. City org, we did not meet. Right? Oh, I'm not org. Sorry, wrong. Oh, did org meet?
That's correct. We did not meet.
Okay,
No.
finance.
Didn't meet.
We did not meet.
We did not meet.
Infrastructure?
See you in the morning.
Infrastructure? Did anybody meet in infrastructure?
Yes, we did.
Well, that was quite a while ago. Lindsay, can you make that report? I don't have the information with me.
I didn't think we met.
No, we met we met the we met. We haven't met since then. What?
I'm sorry to ask her, we're black in July, correct? We canceled that meeting, that's what I understand?
That I don't know.
I thought that's why we had to have a special meeting in June.
Okay. All right. We met, we discussed the wastewater plant, we discussed the paving program, and the parking lot at the theaters. And I think that was everything.
Discuss the moving into doing the LED. We didn't come to a decision, but discuss moving to LED lights throughout the city using the.
Oh, yeah, we looked a little bit more at the LED program, and I think we're still discussing that some more because we still didn't feel comfortable with getting into the 20-year contract. So And I think we also discussed that we were going to look at moving the Measure V funds and the traffic impact fee funds for Down Street. I thought we recommended that, but we'll have to look at the notes. But I know we discussed that, so as well.
We either,
Mike, did you say something?
He said, yes, we did.
Okay.
I said, yes, we did discuss that.
And I thought we made a recommendation of that as well, but
yeah, if I remember right, I believe that was going to be an internal decision that would be brought forward when Down Street is brought forward. We're going to use
we're going to use the traffic impact fee fund.
traffic impact fees. Yeah, sorry, it's been a long night.
Instead
We're going to use
of-
yeah. When we come back with the contract for approval to council, we're coming back with impact fees and not Measure V. Was the decision. So there's nothing that needs to be decided on by council.
Yeah.
They're just
Traffic impact fees can be used for expansion projects, and so where Measure V funds can be used for maintenance and things.
yeah, no council action at this time. It'll just be when staff brings that project forward. It'll be impact fee money, not Measure V, so we can use Measure V for repair and maintenance.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, Parks and Rec,
We did not meet.
Youth Advisory
They're done for the
did
summer.
not meet. Action Committee did not meet. The next item is Ridgecrest Area Visitors and Convention Bureau.
Peggy, I don't think that they met. I was not able to attend. If I usually I would have notes there if they
I
do.
don't think that they met
I
because
don't think they met.
it was last week and
It was.
just with the
That's
earthquake
correct.
and everything. I don't think that they met.
Okay, Economic Development.
We also did not meet.
Okay, other committees, boards, or commissions? Okay, then we'll go to the city manager's report.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I'll just speak briefly. I was extremely impressed with how staff and the community and all of our outlying area partners all came together during the earthquake. There's a long list of people to thank, but I think that all of the relationships that our community has, either that have been established through the emergency services community, through the local politicians, our local relationship with county supervisor, with our state officials and our federal officials, really came into play on how we responded to this emergency. I know that spending a lot of time with you and Supervisor Gleason, as well as the chief, as the decisions were made on how to move forward on this, and especially the resources that were brought to bear through you and through Mick, by bringing resources in from the state and the county, were extremely helpful. I know that our staff worked very hard, those that were in response and the ones that are working on the recovery, and as well as those employees that still kept the city moving forward, that weren't involved in the response and recovery process, but we still have business to do every day while we're still working on this major incident. I know that right now we're working with Cal OES and FEMA to get the numbers in, to do the best we can to get the reimbursement to make our community whole, whether it be damage to the wastewater facility or our roads, or our local college, school district, water district, airport district, as well as the China Lake Naval Weapons Center. We're all working very hard to be able to recover and come back to some sense of normalcy. So I am very proud of what everybody did. Like I'm especially proud of Chief McLaughlin, and as well as you, Mayor. You guys showed strong leadership. You showed a steady hand, and you guys, and as well as, Mr. Martin and Mr. Heyman coming out and showing your support within the community, unified us. And like I said, I think I can't imagine what our volunteer hours are going to be. They're going to be significant. We had all of our PACT volunteers. We had, that agreement that you guys approved a couple months ago, where we agreed to share resources in our operational area with the other county partners, really came into play, especially in regards to building. We've had over 1,000 requests for inspections. Now, some are significant. We have significant damage. Others are just, come take a look at my place and let me know that it's okay. So we're working through those. But we've had, upwards to 15 building inspectors from throughout the county and now throughout the state, helping us work our way through this for the benefit of our community. So, like I said, I'm very proud of how we responded. And I think that, our community is a very special community that can work our way through this. So that's all my report for this evening.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, future agenda items. Anybody? Mike or Wallace?
No.
Okay,
not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mayor and council comments?
I had one. I just wanted to say, sorry I wasn't here when all of it went down, but watching from a distance, I echo what Solomon and Mr. Strand said, and I believe you guys. It was impressive watching how well you came together, and Jed, just you really did a good job of seeing everyone through and setting up that community event. I think really lifted everyone's spirits a lot, and thank you for all that you guys have done, all the staff, all the volunteers. And pulling back into town, like Keith said, seeing how well everything held together really was nice, and knowing that people who are here were calling and willing to go check on our home, and so it's nice how we take care of each other and come together as a community. So,
any other council comments?
I'll keep it pretty quick.
Yes, I just like to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
I just like to say ditto to what Lindsay just said. I'm sorry I wasn't there to help out. Here in Iowa, we didn't feel them at all. So, but I'm amazed at how many. I'm amazed at how many aftershocks you guys are going through. My wife has a deal on her phone that reports the aftershocks, and it's just amazing how many you're still having.
Yeah.
So my prayers are with you.
I have had three of them since
Mike.
we've been sitting here. Yeah. So.
I just wanted to.
4.3.
I just wanted to reiterate a lot of what's already been said, so I don't want to repeat it, but I will say that in the days, from the first earthquake and the way Peggy responded and her hard work has been absolutely, I think, spot on. And these four here were four faces that every time I came down to the city hall, I would see them, and they were working, I think, pretty much around the clock. And they were walking zombies from lack of sleep. But our mayor, our city manager, Ron, and our chief, Jed, and Bard, I commend you guys. You guys, you were some of the hardest working people I have seen. It's commendable, the way this, and I don't mean to exclude anybody else who's not in this room right now, but these four were like the backbone of what was going on down here. And so I commend you guys on your hard work. I think we, as a city, did fantastic in a community all the way around. So I'm glad to be a part of it. I wish it was a part of something different, and wasn't an earthquake and, what it was. But I was really, really, really happy, and it made me feel good to live in Ridgecrest and raise my family here, and proud to be, working with you guys. So good job.
Okay. Wallace, did you want to say anything, or have you said it already?
No, one word, bravo, and 3 exclamation points. I agree with absolutely everything everyone has said. across the board. I think the city represented itself absolutely beautifully across the board, publicly, privately, with our citizens, with elected officials. I think it was, I don't know. To me, it was as flawless it could have been. And special thanks to Jed. Everybody worked so hard. But, Jed, I really appreciate you going after Jimmy Kimmel and the Hollywood absolute nonsense. We only had a few little zips along the way. And instead of just being shy and backing down and ha, 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 it was not a ha, ha, ha. It was awful. And I thank you for going after Mr. Kimmel. Thank everybody.
I say amen to all that. So, okay, then we will adjourn and go and finish our closed session. Thank you all for coming.
Okay, I'm going to hang up and call back in.
Okay.
Oh, I quit this one.